It doesn't matter if I can or not. If you don't believe me, just pretend I'm not. But just tell me who told you these things. Gu Qingqing knew Han Sen, and she knew it couldn't have been Han Sen who saw those events. Someone must have told him. So, Gu Qingqing had no reason to be suspicious about what he had told her. I'm not sure. I met someone, but I don't know anything about him. I never saw him again. After that, Han Sen didn't know who the person was, so he couldn't tell her. Gu Qingqing frowned and looked at Han Senator. She didn't believe what he said. After all, why would some random stranger tell him such stories? Han Sen kept talking about things that didn't matter, now wanting to slip away. He had at least confirmed that Gu Qingqing was the elusive number 4. But if Gu Qingqing was a human that had been in the sanctuaries in ancient times, like she had just told him, how did she enter? And how was she still alive after all that time had passed? Something else confused Han Sen, too. If number 4 was a number the observer had just written down, did that mean the other numbers were humans, too? If they were humans, how were the numbers decided? If the numbers were given by order of entry into the sanctuaries, then that meant 3 had already come before her. Of course, this was all just guesswork. The numbers might not have even represented humans. You can leave, but you need to explain things to me first. Gu Qingqing raced to the door and blocked the exit, prohibiting Han Sen from leaving. Han Sen looked at Gu Qingqing. He thought what she said was fairly believable. When he first met her, he thought she was strange. He never thought she fit into this world, anyway. The name Gu Qingqing itself was something rather old-fashioned. It wasn't a modern human name, at all. And some of her behavior flat out made Han Sen feel strange. She was both mysterious and hauntingly beautiful, and that in itself was odd. Her being different might have been something to expect, then. Now that he thought about it, Gu Qingqing didn't look like a modern human, either. I can tell you what you want to know, but first, I need you to tell me who you are, Han Sen said quietly. I told you already. You're the one who chose not to believe me, Gu Qingqing said. Even if I did believe you are an ancient human, you should have a historical identity. Back then, humans were separated by countries. Which country did you hail from? What did you do before? What Han Sen wanted to know the most was how she had managed to enter the sanctuary. He was afraid that by asking her directly, he wouldn't receive an answer. First, he had to test the waters. Gu Qingqing looked at Han Sen with strange doubt, but answered, I am from the Chu state. I am a Qi Gong caster. Qi Gong caster? Which faction did you belong to? Han Sen asked politely. That's none of your business, Gu Qingqing answered. How did you get into the sanctuary? Han Sen asked. If I answer this question, you will have to tell me who told you all that stuff. Gu Qingqing looked right at Han Sen when she said this. Okay, it's a deal, Han Sen agreed. With no hesitation, Gu Qingqing said, I am from Chu state, but I practiced at sea. Once, when I returned to land in my boat, a weird vortex appeared. I fell into it, and when I came to, I was in the sanctuary. Which planet was the vortex on? And where? Han Sen asked. That's pointless information. I left the sanctuary many times to search for the vortex, but I learned nothing. I have even used powerful submarines to search underwater. All I've found are ordinary seas and nothing else special, Gu Qingqing said.
Han Sen nodded.
According to what you have said, if you are from Chu state, it has been tens of thousands of years. How have you managed to live so long? I told you. I have answered your original question, and now it is your turn to answer mine. Answer my question. Who told you this stuff? Gu Qingqing said. Han Sen pulled out a book and showed it to her. It wasn't the diary he found in the control room, though. It was a copy he had made. The number 4 sections were there, while he had left the original at home. This was why Han Sen did not go see her immediately. Gu Qingqing took the book and opened it with confusion. After seeing it, her face changed. She flipped through the book really quickly and soon looked ill. Who is this person? Gu Qingqing closed the book and stared at Han Senator. She looked very angry, and goosebumps ran up and down her skin after having read all the complaints. From what she asked, it looked as if something she never thought would be known had now been exposed for all to see. She felt naked. I don't know the writer, but I copied it from a book I found in God's ruin. Han Sen went on to tell her what happened. Gu Qingqing wasn't too convinced with the tale, though. She stared at him for a good long while. She wanted to find the truth from his face, but she was disappointed. If what you're saying is true, there must be more numbers. There has to be another 3, at least, Gu Qingqing said thoughtfully. Yes, but there isn't much about them. Just 2 sentences. You were the focus of the record.
Han Sen smiled.
Let me see the other parts. Gu Qingqing reached out her hand. Okay, but you need to tell me how you've managed to live all this time.
Han Sen blinkade.
Gu Qingqing did not hesitate, and it looked as if she had just thought of something. She had to confirm her thoughts and said, I had been here for 12 years when I explored God's ruin. I entered a strange place and got trapped there. It felt like a short time, maybe a few months. But when I came out, the teleporters in the shelters that were previously not available for use now were functional. I used one of them to leave the sanctuary, and then I learned that tens of thousands of years had passed. Saying this, Gu Qingqing then thought of something quite upsetting. She looked darkly at Han Sen and said, Not long after I returned to the Alliance, I met your liar. I met your great-grandfather. Han Sen could imagine what would happen if a person displaced from the ancient past met a liar. The place you went to, were there many crystal machines? Han Sen asked. Gu Qingqing nodded. You were right. The rooms you and I went to were similar. There were some differences, however. I guess those must have been crystallizer items, but I didn't know that at the time. And when I actually returned from there, I was unable to find the entrance I had originally used. Han Sen thought the sanctuaries definitely had some association with the crystallizers now. When he entered the main control room, he himself had been taken 10 years into the future. He had no reason to doubt what she was telling him, but Han Sen still believed that something was amiss. He looked at Gu Qingqing and said, I remember something. Weren't you a member of the 7th team? You were with Han Jinji in the beginning, and it's a well-known fact that humans were unable to enter the sanctuaries at that point. The teleporters were just for testing. Did you get out through one of those devices? Gu Qingqing shook her head. Teleporters aren't the only way for one to leave the sanctuaries. When I teleported away, I found myself standing at an altar situated in some old construct on a human-inhabited planet. It was my exit point, but there was no way for me to re-enter from there. When I eventually returned to the sanctuaries, I made use of human-built teleporters to go to and fro. Han Sen asked, When you entered the sanctuary with Han Jinji, what did you see? I have answered enough for now. Now it's your turn. Give me the rest of the book. Gu Qingqing simply put out her hands. Answer my last question. What happened there? Han Sen insisted on an answer for this. I don't know what happened. We met a being called God. He said he could fulfill our grandest wishes, but we would only receive one each. Han Jinji told me not to make a wish, so I left with Ning. Ning did not make a wish either. After that, I'm unsure what happened, Gu Qingqing said. Were you a demigod by that point already? Did you think that was God himself, or was it just some strong, almighty creature? Han Sen asked. I don't know. I guess that place was the elusive 5th sanctuary, though. The god we met might have just been a god-class creature, Gu Qingqing said, and then put her hands out again. She said, I've answered everything you've wanted to hear. Now, give me what I'm owed. I left the original version at home. I'll have to go and get it. There was nothing more Han Sen could ask, so he complied and went to retrieve the diary for her. She could read ancient texts better than Han Sen, so she moved through the contents of the diary at a much faster pace. Strange. That's very strange. Gu Qingqing was talking to herself as she perused the contents of the book. What is strange? Han Sen quickly asked. The creatures mentioned are from the 4th god's sanctuary. I saw some after I became a demigod, but when humans from the Alliance entered, they all disappeared. These people who are numbered, they sound like individuals that might be easy to find. I don't think they are the same sort of humans you'd find in the Alliance, Gu Qingqing said. Maybe they're like you. Perhaps they were people who could enter before all humans naturally could, Han Sen suggested. Judging from the numerical values, it seems as if there might be a few thousand such people. I have never met them during my time in the sanctuaries, however, Gu Qingqing said. The sanctuaries are big places. A few thousand scattered across such vast worlds? I'd say it's not too out of the ordinary that you haven't encountered any, Han Sen said. Gu Qingqing shook her head and said, Impossible. Some people mentioned in here are said to have killed famous demigod super creatures. There's no way I wouldn't have heard about any of these feats being accomplished. That is weird. Maybe the numbers aren't all humans, then? Han Sen pointed at the last part and asked, "Can you explain the last part? It sounds as if you hadn't been seen in a while. Where did you go off to? Is it because I entered that strange place, and they could not see me?" Gu Qingqing said, after some thought. "That is possible. But that also means these observations began recently. Those numbered humans are old humans, though, not modern humans," Han Sen said, after also taking a moment to think. "It looks like the crystallizers have quite the connection to the sanctuaries, but history says they were destroyed a long time ago. There are many tidbits to string together and figure out here." Gu Qingqing gave the dairy back to Han Sen and then went on to say, "If you want to get to the bottom of all this, we can cooperate. If you make any more discoveries, how about you share what you know with me? We can investigate this together. What do you think?" "I can agree to that, yes." Han Sen then asked, "What is up with Elysian Moon, by the way? Why do you both look identical?" "She is a spirit. That is one item of discussion that is none of your business." Gu Qingqing's temperament went cold. "We are cooperating, aren't we? It's best that partners get to know each other a bit better."
Han Sen smiled.
"This is off-limits to our cooperation." Gu Qingqing then swiftly pushed Han Sen out of her room and slammed the door. Han Sen touched his nose and left. He wasn't put off. He'd just ask again next time. "It's time to show off my skills." Han Sen went to the Geno core storage. He wanted to get all his Geno cores to first place before proceeding to gold class. Han Sen's genes had leveled up very quickly, but his Geno cores hadn't been given the opportunity to catch up. He wanted to spend some time upgrading his Geno cores now. It would be difficult to reach superclass, but reaching gemstone should be easy enough. Han Sen used Crystal Core as his key for entry. This Geno core was already in first place, so many wished to challenge and dethrone it. Han Sen then saw a familiar name. It was Ghost Eye. He was in the top 10 in the Silver Geno core rankings. Han Sen wasn't sure if Ghost Eye had worked his way through the ranks, or if he had just bought his way up. Han Sen remembered striking a bargain with him once, one that Ghost Eye swiftly betrayed. Although Ghost Eye had ultimately failed, Han Sen was still upset about what had occurred. This guy has guts to challenge me. If he wants to die, I suppose I don't mind helping him. Han Sen clenched his fists and accepted Ghost Eye's challenge. Then, he entered the Geno core battleground. Han Sen found the three-eyed panther waiting on the battleground. It was indeed the lying asterisk shoal Ghost Eye. "You've got some nerve showing your face to me." Han Sen moved his body and teleported directly in front of the tricky feline. "Boss, hang on. I have a big secret I wish to inform you about." Ghost Eye screamed as he tried to run. "You and your secret can go to hell." Han Sen wasn't having any of it. Wearing the ghost armor given to him by Ghost Eye, he dashed in front of the creature and attempted to punch its head in. "I have an Emperor Geno core. I was going to give it to you. Please take it." Ghost Eye screamed, seeing he'd be unable to dodge the manic fist. When Han Sen heard this, he stopped. He let his fist hover above the panther's third eye, and he said, "You've got 3 seconds. If I don't see an Emperor Geno core within the allotted time, you're going straight to hell." 1. Ghost Eye gritted his teeth and pulled out an item that resembled a claw. He placed it in front of Han Senator then. He said, "Boss, this is it. I know I was wrong to do what I did last time, but now I am being wholeheartedly sincere. For first place, I am willing to give you this Emperor Geno core. Please, believe me once more." Han Sen took the item from Ghost Eye, with his other hand still hovering above the creature's head. He said, "This is an Emperor Geno core?" Han Sen did not believe Ghost Eye. If he had an Emperor Geno core, why would he throw it away to get first place for a Silver Geno core? Not even first place in the gemstone leaderboard would be worth that much, he reckoned. It was a strange Geno core. In the Geno core storage, a Geno core was sealed and unusable if it wasn't the self-Geno core used as a key for entry. But that Geno core did not look as if it had just been sealed by the Geno core storage. It looked gray and dark, like rusted steel. It was weird. It looked like a flute, minus the holes. It was like a pipe made of stone. Ghost Eye smiled and said, "You are smart. This is indeed an Emperor Geno core, but it just has the problem of being sealed. But with your strength, you can most certainly unseal it and become the best in the fourth god's sanctuary. Had you been able to unseal it, you wouldn't have given it to me, would you? Han Sen looked at him with disdain. Ghost Eye looked awkward, and with a grin, he said, I was unable to open it because I was weak. You, however, are so strong. You must certainly be able to. I'm taking the item as a punishment for you breaking the deal last time. If you want to gain first place this time, go and bring me something even better. Don't bring me something else like this, Han Sen said, and without giving the creature a chance to object, he punched it in the face. Ghost Eye hacked out blood. He had been injured, but he was allowed to concede and exit the Geno battleground. F***CK. He's worse than me. He took my stuff and didn't give me anything. Ghost Eye was feeling fairly disheartened. He had tricked Han Sen once, but he had never expected him to reach first place again. Now that he had sacrificed the Emperor Geno core and gotten beaten up without obtaining first place as he desired, he was dismayed. It looks like I'll have to wait until he reaches gold class before I can reach first place. I wasted my Emperor class Geno core. Ghost Eye was feeling very upset, and he spoke his sorrow aloud. Ghost Eye had given Han Sen an Emperor Geno core. It was quite infamous in the fourth god's sanctuary, but so was its seal. No one had ever been able to open it. The emperor that used to own it was named Drink Blood Emperor. He was a very infamous spirit, and this Geno core belonged to him. It was called Blow Blood. The sad thing was, Drink Blood Emperor garnered the ire of a certain creature and was killed by it. The result of this circumstance left Blow Blood sealed. After that, the Blow Blood Geno core had passed through the hands of many different elites. Sadly, no one had ever figured out how to unseal it. Its renown increased, but so too did the belief that it was completely worthless. After all, no matter how strong you were, a sealed Geno core was useless. Ghost Eye had only managed to get it recently, and he wished to speak with Han Sen and offer it up in exchange for first place. But Han Sen wanted to kill him right away, and in a rush, Ghost Eye had to play his cards and reveal Blow Blood. He had actually planned to trick him again, after the exchange, too. But now that Blow Blood had been taken, and he had not obtained first place, Ghost Eye was quite upset. Fortunately, Blow Blood's worth was only the equivalent of a gemstone Geno core nowadays. Therefore, it wasn't all that expensive to lose. He'd be a lot more upset if he lost something of even greater value. Han Sen, seeing Ghost Eye, was not in a rush to level up his crystal core now. He wanted to scam the Panther and drain him of what he could before proceeding on to gold class. Han Sen left the Geno core storage with the intent of studying his new Geno core. He wanted to see if he was the one who could unseal the item. Han Sen had never heard of Blow Blood Geno core, though. He didn't know where it came from, and a part of him even thought it wasn't actually an Emperor Geno core. Han Sen summoned his gold class Real Blood Geno core and attached it to the Blow Blood Geno core. He wanted to see if that would allow it to be used. Real blood landed on the gray pipe. It didn't melt into it, but it didn't slide down, either. It seemed to be absorbing. Han Sen watched the process, and near Real Blood's position, a red line like a piece of silk was being generated. It seemed as if Real Blood was soaking into the Geno core. Han Sen was delighted, and so he thought, it looks like Real Blood is helping with the seal. At this rate, it might take a few days. If Ghost Eye learned that Blow Blood could be unsealed, he'd definitely be angrier. Han Sen still did not know whether or not it was an Emperor Geno core, but the seal was very powerful. He had no doubt about that. It was a high-class Geno core, either way. It was definitely super, at the very least. As Han Sen continued his investigation, Gu Qingqing and Elysian Moon suddenly walked into the hall. Elysian Moon hadn't been seen for a while. This time, she had come back looking terrible. She was covered in wounds. Her face was pale and bloodied. There is an angry creature nearby. It's a super creature, and it hurt Elysian Moon. I'm going to go kill it. Would you like to come with me? Gu Qingqing asked Han Sen directly. How are you going to split the profits? Han Sen asked. You can have the loot. I just want to avenge her, Gu Qingqing said. She wouldn't come looking for me if it was this easy. There must be something up with the creature. Han Sen didn't think Gu Qingcheng would approach Han Sen to assign an easy task. The Destroyer Wolf at rank 139 on the Super Geno Corps leaderboard won't be all that easy to kill, Gu Qingcheng said. May I ask what your rank is on the Super Geno Corps leaderboard? Han Sen asked, out of genuine curiosity. I am 17th, Gu Qingcheng said carelessly. You're that high? You're 17th, and you can't defeat this Destroyer Wolf that is only 139? Han Sen was surprised. It can't beat me in raw strength, but it has the ability to consume space. I will be unable to catch him, and that is why I'll need you in Nightmare, Gu Qingcheng said. To me, it sounds as if all you really need is the assistance of Little Red. Why don't you just ask him straight away? I can't make him come. Han Sen shook his head. He won't accept my invitation, but you will be just as useful as him. You can come to help, Gu Qingcheng said. Okay, and just to confirm what you told me, I will be receiving the items once it's dead, yes?
Han Sen smiled.
If you can truly help, sure. Would you plan on taking the loot even if you didn't put any effort in? Gu Qingcheng wasn't very polite when it came to these sorts of affairs. We will see, but I am known to take out as much as I put in. Han Sen did not argue, and just went along with her. He wanted to see how strong Gu Qingcheng was if she truly was ranked 17th on the Super Geno Corps leaderboard. Han Sen followed Gu Qingcheng and Elysian Moon out of the shelter. The travel was dull for Han Sen, and he found himself bored. So, he asked, who was in first place on the Super Geno Corps leaderboard? Gu Qingcheng was equally bored. She said, the one currently in first place is the fellow who leads Sacred. He claims to be God's own child, but there are others who have the same might as him. The person in first place switches every now and again. Why does the person in first place frequently change? Han Sen asked, having been surprised by this. What's so weird about that? There are many powerful Geno Corps there, of Emperor class and Berserk class. They're all good at something. No one is the absolute strongest. That being said, when I first became a demigod, I heard there was a Geno Corps that held first place for a very long time. It hadn't lost once. But that is the only time in history when the first place on the Super Geno Corps leaderboard seemed fixed. Nowadays, the holder of the first position changes frequently, Gu Qingcheng said. What was that Geno Corps' name? Is it still on the leaderboard? Han Sen asked with curiosity. You're reading on Bok's novel, yes. If it was still on the leaderboard, the ranks wouldn't keep changing. I have only heard about it through hearsay, though. When I first arrived here, it was already gone. I suppose you could say it's more of a myth now. Its name, however, was Destiny's Tower. I can only suppose it left for the fifth sanctuary alongside its master, Gu Qingcheng said. When Han Sen heard Gu Qingcheng say this, his heart jumped. If that stellar Geno Corps was indeed Destiny's Tower, it probably meant the one resting in his Sea of Soul. *T. Destiny's Tower is that strong? Han Sen held on to his excitement and pretended the name didn't ring any bells. Then, he asked, who was Destiny's Tower's master? I don't know, and I don't think anyone does. It's an old myth, and it is something I have only heard of once, Gu Qingcheng said. Han Sen asked a few more questions, but she didn't know much. She said the master of Destiny's Tower was strange. The rumors said when he first appeared on the Geno Corps leaderboard, he did so at a low rank. Apparently, it was in the 10,000s. No one had seen it in the first few ranks, but all of a sudden, it managed to reach number 1. No one knew whether that was a good thing or a bad thing. Of course, this was just part of the myth. Gu Qingcheng had only heard about these events. She hadn't witnessed them firsthand. Han Sen retreated into thought. Is this Destiny's Tower the same one that's in my Sea of Soul? If it is that good, and so was its master, why did they not go on to the 5th sanctuary? And who was that being in armor that resided in the Black Chimenea? Why was he an enemy of Destiny's Tower's master? All these questions now rattled around Han Sen's head, but thinking he actually owned that tower now, he almost lost control and laughed his head off. Dad, why are you so happy? Bauer was in Han Sen's arms. She looked right at him as she spoke. Oh, it's just because you're next to me. That's why I am happy, Han Sen quickly said. He was worried Gu Qingcheng might have gotten suspicious. When Bauer heard this, she was delighted. She kissed Han Sen on the cheek and said, I am happy too, when you were around me. Elysian Moon couldn't bear watching it. She balked. Ugh, you two are so gross. You're just jealous. You could be like me if you had a beautiful daughter, too. Han Sen held Bauer and laughed at her. Humph. Elysian Moon turned glum and looked away. Han Sen felt weird about that, though. He wasn't sure what he said that might have upset her. What he said shouldn't have peeved her as it did. Gu Qingqing then changed the subject. When you see Destroyer Wolf, be careful. It can consume space, and it can also leap out at you from tiers in the dimension, pouncing at you from any angle. If he slips into a space crack, follow me. That sounds annoying. How do you plan on killing it? Han Sen frowned and asked. Han Sen had enough power to fight super creatures, but this was a berserk super creature with space powers. It would be a hard fight. That was, unless he used his Destiny's Tower. But that thing cost a lot of energy, and it wouldn't be wise to show it off in public. If others recognized it was Destiny's Tower, and it was in the hands of a human, all the emperors and super creatures would come dogpile on him to end him. Maybe we should take a look first. There's every chance we won't get to him, Gu Qingqing said. What do you mean? Han Sen was shocked. That Destroyer Wolf offended some people. For some reason, many creatures and spirits are now after him. We're just going to try our luck and see if we can get it. We might not even be able to find it, Gu Qingqing said. Why didn't you tell me any of this sooner?
Han Sen frov ned.
Hearing her say this, Han Sen knew this task would not be as simple as he had initially assumed. They walked for less than 2 days, and there were scary beings everywhere. Sometimes, Han Sen could even detect powerful auras sweeping across the sky. However, the creatures seemed to be moving chaotically. It felt less like they were chasing something, and more like they were searching. They must be looking for that Destroyer Wolf, said Elysian Moon. Just when Han Sen was about to respond, Sumi ran up to him and said, Teacher, something major is happening. What's happening? Han Sen asked, looking at Sumi. He had sent Sumi out earlier to train. Sumi said excitedly, the Destroyer Wolf stole a descendant of the Master of Sacred Shelter. Now, it has come toward us, and many powerful super creatures are chasing it. A child of Sacred Shelter's master? A creature like goddess? Han Sen suddenly imagined a goddess climbing out of an egg, which was a bizarre thought. Yes, I heard that it's the child of Sacred's master and a berserk super creature, but the berserk super creature wasn't living in Sacred Shelter, which was how the Destroyer Wolf managed to steal the egg. Now, many powerful shelters like Sacred and Outer Sky are all hunting that Destroyer Wolf, said Sumi. Sacred is powerful enough to gather all those shelters to help him? Asked Han Sen, amazed.
No.
They're all looking for the egg. It's a descendant of 2 berserk super creatures, so its genes must be extraordinary. The egg will be highly beneficial to any being that eats it. If it's a female, then they'll keep it and make it procreate with others to further improve the genes. Sumi couldn't be more excited. He lowered his voice and said to Han Sen, Teacher, should we also go look for it? If we're lucky enough, perhaps we can actually find the egg. Then let's try to find it before others do. Han Sen didn't have much hope for it. Many top-tier shelters sent their most powerful creatures to look for the Destroyer Wolf and that egg. That Destroyer Wolf had been given plenty of time to hide itself. Han Sen didn't think they alone would be able to find it. And even if he could find it, it wouldn't be easy to steal the egg from so many terrifying beings. Many powerful creatures swept across the sky above them. After only half a day, Han Sen detected 20 different creatures flying over him, and those were just the ones close enough for him to notice. However, they were still searching chaotically. It seemed that they still hadn't found the Destroyer Wolf yet. Elysian Moon, where did you meet the Destroyer Wolf? Han Sen asked her. Near Rolling Dragon Lake, Elysian Moon said, pointing in a direction. Han Sen was kind of familiar with the area around him, since it wasn't far from his shelter. Rolling Dragon Lake was a giant lake among the mountains, and it was named such because of the dragon-like creatures in the lake. Han Sen had heard that there was a lake nearby, but he had never been there. Though Rolling Dragon Lake was among the mountains, it was very large, more than 100 square miles. However, the water in the lake was dark, giving out dark light like gas. It looked dense, so nobody could see anything that was even an inch below the water's surface. Nobody could say for sure whether a creature could actually live in the water or not. When Han Sen and the others arrived at the lake, they found Goddess already there. Goddess looked a bit different from before. Her life force had become terrifying, but it was also obscured and difficult to read. It seemed that she had reached super level. Just as Han Sen observed Goddess, she also noticed Han Sen, and her eyes became aloof. However, seeing Gu Qingqing beside Han Sen, Goddess frowned and began walking toward Han Sen with some creatures from her shelter beside her. There were 4 creatures beside Goddess, and they were all livid. Apparently, they were already super creatures, and all of them were mighty. However, Goddess didn't talk to Han Senator instead. She walked up to Gu Qingqing and asked, Elysium Master, is this person related to you? How is that your business, one way or the other? Asked Gu Qingqing, mildly. This man is a mortal enemy of mine. If he doesn't have anything to do with you, I'm going to take my revenge now. Gu Qingqing took a look at Han Sen, squinted her eyes, and said, What do you think? Han Sen heard it and said, Of course there's a connection between us. We're partners working together. You heard that, right? Gu Qingqing said, glancing at Goddess. Of course. I'll let him go this time for your sake. Goddess waved her hands and left with those 4 super creatures. You get along pretty well here. Han Sen gave a thumbs up to Gu Qingqing. You owe me one, said Gu Qingqing. Okay, no problem, but I'm still a bit confused. Why did she call you Elysium Master? You're a human. How did you become the head of the Elysium race? Han Sen was curious about that. That has nothing to do with you. Gu Qingqing glared at him, then took Elysian Moon and walked toward the lake. Han Sen looked in the direction that Goddess had vanished, then followed Gu Qingqing and Elysian Moon. There was indeed some evidence of a fight that had happened beside the lake, and there were some residual tears in the fabric of space. They were feeble, but they hadn't yet healed entirely. Goddess and her sidekicks were also looking at those rips in space. They could tell that the tears had been left by Destroyer Wolf. Han Sen also used his Dongxian aura to observe the remaining evidence of the wolf. There were only a few molecules left, and it was probably because Destroyer Wolf got away through the space fault, so it didn't leave any molecules on its way. Gu Qingqing only looked at it for a short while, but she couldn't find any clues. She frowned and said, Someone was definitely chasing the Destroyer Wolf, and that's how Elysian Moon was lucky enough to get away. The Destroyer Wolf also escaped through the space cracks. We might not be able to find any traces here. Let's just walk around and look. Perhaps we'll be lucky enough to find some clues. Han Sen took a look at Rolling Dragon Lake and walked to the other side. The Destroyer Wolf really hadn't left much of a trail, but Han Sen could see that it had left behind a few molecules, at least. He then walked toward the other side of the shining lake and found more traces of some sort of creature. Han Sen didn't know which creature these molecules belonged to, but he could tell that those molecules had been left there at the same time as the molecules left by Destroyer Wolf. That indicated that another creature had been in the area at the same time as Destroyer Wolf. Han Sen wanted to find that creature first to see what he could learn from it. Destroyer Wolf got away through a space crack. What clue do you think you can find here? Elysian Moon said, frowning. Let's just look around. Perhaps we can find some clues, Han Sen said as he walked. Then you can try your luck here. We don't think we'd find anything, Elysian Moon said while pointing in another direction. There's nothing to find here. We can secretly follow the groups from Sacred and Outer Sky. Better that than wasting our time here, said Gu Qingqing. Then let's separate into 2 teams. You can follow them, and I'll keep looking here. Han Sen wasn't in a rush. There were too many powerful beings from Sacred and Outer Sky, and everyone was on high alert, so Han Sen's group would be easily spotted. Han Sen planned to walk around to check for any remaining molecules. He wanted to see what kind of creatures were with the Destroyer Wolf. Okay, I'll leave you some marks to indicate where we've gone. Elysian Moon was already walking away, so Gu Qingqing left Han Sen a mark and hurried after her. Sumi wanted to follow them as well, but since Han Sen was not going, he had to follow Han Sen. Teacher, that Destroyer Wolf has fled through the space fault. Why are we still looking for clues here? We'd better follow Goddess's group. There'll be some interesting things happening later, Sumi said. He didn't think he'd be able to seize the egg. He just wanted to watch those powerful beings fight each other. Han Sen smiled and said, I'll keep searching here. You can follow those two if you really want to go. Sumi thought for a minute and said, I'd rather follow you, teacher. Han Sen didn't say anything more. Instead, he followed the molecules along the lake. There were only a few molecules left. It had been quite a long time, so there were only some scent molecules left, and they were not continuous. It would take Han Sen a long while to follow such a faint trail. Sumi saw Han Sen walk around the lake, looking around everywhere. He walked slowly, but he didn't know what Han Sen was looking at. He could only follow behind Han Sen. Han Sen walked around most of the lake, and at some point, the trail disappeared. He walked forward, but he couldn't find any more molecules. Weird. Where are they? Han Sen walked back to the last spot he had seen the molecules, and he observed the place carefully. You're reading on .com, thanks. It was very close to the lake shore, and there were some black water stains at the shoreline. Does this lake rise at some point? Did the creature that left the scent enter the lake? Why did he walk around for so long instead of entering the lake immediately? Is there something special in this location? Han Sen frowned as he thought. He observed the lake, but he couldn't see anything special. The lake here was exactly like other areas of Rolling Dragon Lake. It was dark like ink, and he couldn't see anything inside. The surface of the water was peaceful as well, and there were no ripples. Han Sen couldn't find any living beings in the lake using his Dongxian aura. What are you looking at, teacher? Sumi stood beside Han Sen and looked at the lake, but he couldn't see anything either. I'm looking for clues, Han Sen said with a smile. Clues? What clues? I can't see anything. Sumi was curious. He observed the lake again, but he still couldn't see anything there. What would you need me for if you could see through everything? Han Sen said condescendingly. Sumi said, no wonder you're a teacher. I can't even compare with you. Please, teacher, teach me something. What kind of clues are there in this lake? My disciple, you will only truly learn if you find the answers yourself. You have to use your brain more and think it through. That's how you actually learn things. Han Sen pointed at the lake and said, just observe here. I'll go to other areas to see if I can find other clues. Okay, teacher. I won't let you down. Sumi kept staring at the lake, trying to find the clues his teacher alluded to. Han Sen kept walking around the lake, carrying Bauer. He walked all the way around the lake, and then he began walking around in the forest nearby, hoping to find the scent molecules again. Sumi gazed at the lake for a long time, but he still couldn't find any clues. Teacher is indeed wise and mysterious, and I'm not at the same level that he is. What did teacher find here? Sumi gazed at the lake more carefully. Actually, Han Sen didn't find any clues himself. He just felt that it wasn't a coincidence that he found some scent molecules there. So he asked Sumi to stay there to see whether he could find anything. If Han Sen was correct, the creature must have dived back into the lake when the tides rose in Rolling Dragon Lake. Han Sen then decided to walk around Rolling Dragon Lake and come back when the tides rose again. Perhaps he could find something after that. Han Sen walked around the nearby forest for a while, and he didn't find the trail he was looking for, but he did find a familiar scent. Ghost eye? Why is it here? It's so weak. Is it being suicidal? Han Sen checked it carefully, and he found some other molecule traces that resembled those of ghost eye. There were two other types of molecules, but he wasn't sure which creatures they belonged to, and he couldn't tell the power of those creatures either. He toured the forest, and he felt several powerful forces sweeping across the sky, but none of them stayed nearby. After a short while, they were all gone. He didn't find anything new, and it was getting darker. Han Sen went toward Rolling Dragon Lake. Teacher, I've found something. Han Sen was a bit stunned. He only asked Sumi to stay there on the off chance that something happened, but he hadn't expected the spirit to make a discovery. Sumi pointed at the place where Han Sen asked him to stay and watch. The place where Han Sen and Sumi stood before was already covered by the black lake water, but there wasn't anything special there. However, after the lake water rose, a small section of lake water looked different. In that one place close to the shore, the lake water that was originally black became transparent like the water in a normal lake. However, it was already dark, and it was only a tiny area. If they didn't look at it carefully, they wouldn't have noticed the clear water at all. Teacher, you indeed have great acumen. I wasn't able to see anything special before, but I only saw the difference of that part of the lake after it got dark. Sumi looked at Han Sen in awe. Han Sen flew above the small section of clear water, and he tried to see whether there was any difference in the water. That section of the lake looked like a well. It was clear from top to bottom, yet all the water around it was dark. The dark water and the clear water didn't integrate at all. However, it was already after sunset, and the water was very deep. So even if they looked directly down on the clear water, they could only see darkness. They had no idea how deep it was. Unlike the dark lake around it, there were bubbles coming up through the clear water, as if there were lots of fish below. "Teacher, what's wrong with the water here?" Sumi asked Han Sen, standing beside him. Han Sen thought, "How should I know anything about it? I'm not a god who knows everything." Of course, Han Sen didn't say that out loud. He smiled at Sumi and said, "Just wait here for now. I'll go down there and check. Don't enter the water until I come out." Han Sen jumped into the clear water with Bauer, diving deep. He had practiced his swimming skills before. Though he couldn't compare with real marine creatures, he was still able to engage in ordinary fights. Han Sen was cautious. As he swam down, he summoned his golden engraving shield and held it in front of himself to defend against ferocious creatures. The lake was surprisingly deep. Han Sen had dived more than 3,000 feet, yet he still couldn't see the bottom. Everything around him was still dark, and the water looked like ink. Han Sen kept diving, and as he swam down, he suddenly felt a hollow sensation below him, and then he fell forward. As Han Sen quickly regained his feet, he found out that he was standing in a huge underground cave. There were many bones scattered around the cave, and there was a strong stench in the air. In the middle of the cave was a black spring, and it was spewing water like gas. Two creatures lay beside the mouth of the well. The one on the left looked like a dragon, and its scales gleamed with black light as if they were made of coal. The dragon teeth in its mouth looked like knives. It was around 80 feet long, and it looked belligerent. The creature on the right was a giant white wolf, and it was just as large as the black dragon beside it. Its fur was white as snow, yet its eyes were black like ink. Ripples and distortions in space itself seemed to waver through the wolf's fur. The two ferocious beasts glared at Han Sen at the same time, looking at him like a piece of fresh meat that had just been dropped on their doorstep. Destroyer wolf? Han Sen was startled. He was originally looking for the trail of the creature he had sensed on the shoreline, but he hadn't expected to find the destroyer wolf here. Gu Qingsheng described the appearance of the destroyer wolf to Han Sen before, and this giant white wolf looked just as she had described it. And with that terrifying force coming from it, it had to be the destroyer wolf. As for the black dragon, it was likely to be the legendary rolling dragon. However, neither of them seemed to be the creature Han Sen was looking for. Aside from the rolling dragon and the destroyer wolf, there weren't any other creatures in the entire underground cave. Inside the black spring, an object about the size of a basketball was rolling around. Before Han Sen could see what that object exactly was, he heard the rolling dragon roar, after which it spewed a stream of black light toward him. Han Sen couldn't see clearly what that black light was, so he couldn't even dodge it. He raised the golden engraving shield to ward it off.
Yang.
Han Sen felt a giant force transmitting through the golden engraving shield, and he couldn't help stepping back, his back running into a rock wall in the cave. The rock was so hard that it only had some faint cracks after being hit by Han Sen's body, yet Han Sen's bones were almost dislocated. That stream of black light also bounced back after hitting the golden engraving shield. The black light shot toward the rolling dragon and splashed over its tail. Rather than being injured by the power, the dragon's tail caught the black light. Han Sen then saw clearly that the black light shot by the rolling dragon was a trident, which was as dark as ink. There were dragon engravings on the handle, and 3 dragon heads formed the top of the trident. The strike from the rolling dragon didn't kill Han Sen, which shocked it a little bit. The destroyer wolf stared at Han Sen and said, "Who sent you here? Sacred Shelter or Outer Sky Shelter?" "Nobody sent me. I came here myself." Lots of thoughts flooded into Han Sen's mind. The rolling dragon and the destroyer wolf didn't seem to be enemies, and besides, both the creatures were emanating horrifying life forces. They were both incredibly powerful beings. Han Sen's power hadn't reached super level yet, so he wasn't sure whether he could fight against two beings at that level. I should have brought Gu Qingcheng with me.
Han Sen hid.
He hadn't expected to find the Destroyer Wolf so easily. Han Sen had thought that the Destroyer Wolf would team up with the Rolling Dragon to fight him. Instead, the Destroyer Wolf squinted its eyes and gazed at Han Sen for a while, then made a surprising suggestion. Since you weren't sent by Sacred and you're all by yourself, why don't you stay here and share the sacred egg with us? How could I do that? Han Sen found it hard to believe that the Destroyer Wolf would be so kind. It had risked everything to steal that egg. Why would it share with some random human? The Destroyer Wolf smiled, yet that smile kind of creeped Han Sen out. A smile from a giant wolf was a truly disturbing thing to see. Let me put it this way, the Destroyer Wolf said, sounding sincere. We don't want to share the sacred egg with others. From my perspective, you're pretty powerful, and it won't be easy for us to kill you. If you flee and attract other powerful creatures here, it'll be a huge problem for us both. If you're willing, the three of us can share this egg. What do you think? Though what the Destroyer Wolf said made perfect sense to Han Sen, he still felt something off. However, Han Sen was certain of one thing. If he refused, the two creatures would immediately team up and try to kill him to protect their secret. Okay, since you're this sincere, I'll go along with it. Han Sen thought to himself, I'll just use my Destiny's Tower if you really want to attack me. Perhaps I can even find a chance to get that egg. Then you can come down now, my friend. The sacred egg is ready for eating. Is there anyone else aside from you who knows that we're here? Asked the Destroyer Wolf, smiling. No, Han Sen moved down towards them slowly. However, he kept his distance from them. He looked at the white object within the black well and asked, Is that the sacred egg? Correct, that's the sacred egg. However, its shell is too solid. We've tried everything we could think of, but nothing could break the eggshell. We then resorted to using the water from the black pond to erode the shell of the sacred egg. You came here at the right time. After another 40 or 50 hours, the eggshell will be completely eroded, after which we can enjoy this sacred egg, said the Destroyer Wolf. The Rolling Dragon just stared at Han Sen coldly, like a sculpture made of iron. Han Sen wasn't sure if it was because it couldn't understand the human language, or because it didn't want to talk to him. Han Sen saw that neither the Destroyer Wolf nor the Rolling Dragon intended to attack him, which surprised him a little bit. Han Sen thought the Destroyer Wolf just wanted to make sure nobody was around before it attacked him. Yet the Destroyer Wolf didn't seem to have any intention of striking him. It seemed that it had made up its mind to share the sacred egg. Han Sen was still cautious as he wasn't sure what the Destroyer Wolf wanted. He kept his distance from the Destroyer Wolf and the Rolling Dragon, and he also kept an eye on the sacred egg, waiting for it to be completely eroded. Though it was called a sacred egg, there wasn't any special about its appearance. It looked like an ordinary egg at an extra size. It was hard to imagine that a great being like the Destroyer Wolf couldn't break the eggshell. The water was flowing, and the sacred egg was floating on it. Han Sen looked at it carefully, and he found that there were many tiny black engravings on the shell. It seemed that the water from the black pond was sipping in. You're reading on .com, thanks. How should I call you, friend? The Destroyer Wolf didn't want to get close to Han Sen either. Instead, it watched Han Sen from a distance, smiling.
Han Sen, ansvarig Han Sen.
You're so powerful, so you must come from somewhere famous. What haven't I heard of you before? Asked the Destroyer Wolf again. Nowhere famous. I was just lucky enough to obtain some powerful genocores and beast souls, said Han Sen. The more Han Sen spoke, the less the Destroyer Wolf dared to look down upon him. It kept talking with Han Sen, but it didn't show any sign of attacking him. It seemed that it was actually waiting for the eggshell to break so that it could share it with Han Sen. Is that eggshell really so solid that even you can't break it? Han Sen asked again, as he still found it unbelievable. Based on the rules in the Fourth God's Sanctuary, even the descendant of a berserk supercreature was only at bronze level when it was just born. The Destroyer Wolf laid down beside the black pond and smiled. If I were really able to break it, I wouldn't have run around carrying it and being hunted by so many powerful creatures. The Destroyer Wolf paused and laughed. The Master of Sacred spent so much effort gaining the confidence of the Destroyer Empress and convincing her to birth his child. He spent lots of time and effort on that egg, so it should be special. Han Sen took a look at that sacred egg, yet he still couldn't see anything special about it. Even more confusing, Han Sen still couldn't find any trace of the creature he had previously been looking for. If that creature was just some food that the destroyer wolf and the rolling dragon brought here and ate, Han Sen should still be able to find its scent. Just like the bones left in the cave, all three of them were leaving molecules behind. However, Han Sen didn't see any remaining molecules of that creature. Han Sen was afraid that the molecules in the cave were too chaotic for him to check carefully. He rechecked them several times, but he still couldn't find any trace of the creature that he had noticed before. Maybe that creature didn't get into the lake? Then where is it? Han Sen was frowning as he thought, but he couldn't figure anything out. The destroyer wolf sometimes talked with Han Sen, and it was gentle and looked harmless. On the contrary, the rolling dragon didn't say a word. It just lay beside the black pond, staring at the floating sacred egg as if that egg was the only thing it could see. They didn't show any intention of attacking Han Sen, which confused him. Bauer sometimes looked at the sacred egg as if it were some kind of new toy. Time passed, and more black fissures appeared on the eggshell. Just as the destroyer wolf said, the eggshell seemed to be almost completely eroded. Gotcha! After more than 50 hours of waiting, Han Sen, destroyer wolf, and the rolling dragon heard a blast that sounded like an eggshell cracking after being boiled. A black crack appeared on the white eggshell. It's done. The destroyer wolf was exhilarated, and the rolling dragon was even more so. Its tail was carrying the trident, and it immediately threw the trident toward the egg. The egg was already covered with small cracks, and Han Sen thought that the trident of the rolling dragon would pierce through the egg completely. However, when the tip of the trident hit one of the cracks, there were only some sparks on the egg, and the egg was perfectly safe. The crack wasn't enlarged at all. Han Sen was terrified. The destroyer wolf had told him how sturdy the sacred egg was, but he hadn't believed it until now. He had experienced the trident's power, and it was definitely at the top-tier level in the fourth god's sanctuary. Despite that, it couldn't injure the shell at all. The destroyer wolf licked its lips, and it stopped the rolling dragon from striking again. It gazed at the sacred egg and said, "Guess I need to wait longer. We've waited for a long time, so there's no need to rush it." The rolling dragon retreated back to the original spot and laid down. Han Sen stared at the sacred egg, but something still seemed strange to him. There wasn't anything living in the sacred egg. After the eggshell cracked, Han Sen finally managed to detect some energy coming from the egg. However, it wasn't a life force coming from the egg, but a force that resembled death. Why does this power feel like death? Does this sacred egg have the power of a dead spirit? That shouldn't be right. I've seen the power of goddess, and her power feels nothing like this. If they're both descendants of Sacred's master, they shouldn't be so different, Han Sen thought. As Han Sen was thinking, he frowned and turned his attention to a corner of the cave. There were some familiar molecules floating there, the same molecules he saw on the shore. Strange. I've checked the cave several times already, yet I couldn't find any of the molecules of that creature. Why have some showed up here now? Han Sen frowned worriedly. Is there a creature here that not even the destroyer wolf and the rolling dragon know of? Perhaps they know about it, but they're letting the creature hide here for some reason?
Han Sen frov ned.
Han Sen was very confident about his Dongxian aura. He was certain that the molecules belonged to the creature he had been looking for before. Also, these molecules were very recent. There was only one possibility. The mutant creature was in the cave, but it was somehow concealing its presence. Han Sen speculated that when the eggshell of the sacred egg cracked and the rolling dragon struck, the creature thought it was time to make a move and accidentally left some molecules in its excitement. Won't the water from the black pond just pour into the eggshell and pollute the egg yolk inside? Han Sen said randomly. He watched the destroyer wolf casually, but his Dongxian aura was intensely focused on the corner with the molecules. However, nothing strange seemed to be happening. Everything was peaceful, and no more random molecules were slipping out. That makes sense. Let's get the egg out now. There are so many cracks in the egg at this point, so there's a chance that we can just suck the yolk out directly, said the destroyer wolf to the rolling dragon beside it. Han Sen found it strange that Destroyer Wolf was asking for Rolling Dragon's help. Part of the egg was above the black water, so if the Destroyer Wolf was afraid of the water of the black pond, he could retrieve the egg without exposing himself to the water. Normally, people wouldn't just entrust a valuable like this to others. Instead, they would do it by themselves. The Rolling Dragon heard what the Destroyer Wolf said. It spun its tail, using its trident like a spoon to lift the sacred egg out of the pond. It dredged up the sacred egg and put it on the ground beside the spring. At this moment, black fissures covered the egg like a cobweb, and lots of the black fissures had sunk deeply into the egg. The Destroyer Wolf walked to the egg and looked down at the cracks. The crack is still not large enough, and we can't even see what's inside. There isn't anything slipping out, so it needs to be eroded further, said the Destroyer Wolf. Then, it grabbed the sacred egg with its paws and stood up like a human being. It then lifted the sacred egg to throw it in the black pond again. However, just as it turned around, the Rolling Dragon whipped its tail, and the trident pierced through the body of the Destroyer Wolf, punching a hole in the wolf's chest. Blood burst out, dyeing the white fur red. The Destroyer Wolf dropped the egg, and bizarre ripples began to twist the space around the wolf's body. They disappeared for a second, and when they showed up again, Destroyer Wolf was right behind the Rolling Dragon. The wolf teeth tore downwards, biting toward the neck of the Rolling Dragon. Oh! However, before the Destroyer Wolf could bite the neck of the Rolling Dragon, a transparent arrow shot through the wolf's head. The arrow went into the back of its head, through its brain, and out between its eyebrows. Blood dripped from the tip of the arrow. Destroyer Wolf fell on the ground without even having the chance to struggle. It laid on the ground, completely lifeless. Han Sen was completely bewildered. He couldn't believe that the mighty Destroyer Wolf had been killed so easily. He then looked to the corner of the cave and saw a creature standing there. Its upper body was that of a human being, while its lower body looked like a snake. It stood there, sneering with its apathetic face. The creature was holding a bow, and the color of the bow resembled the color of the horns on his head. Good job, Black Dragon. The half-human-shaped creature moved to the side of the Rolling Dragon and patted its head. The horrifying Rolling Dragon suddenly became meek and submissive, and apparently, it enjoyed the praise of the half-human-shaped creature. Who are you? Han Sen asked, alarmed. It was apparent now that the half-human-shaped being and the Rolling Dragon were on the same team. The Destroyer Wolf originally wanted to borrow the Black Pond, which was why it agreed to share the sacred egg with the Rolling Dragon. Little did it expect that the Rolling Dragon had another partner who wanted to kill the Destroyer Wolf and keep the sacred egg all to himself. Rolling Dragon King, the king of the Rolling Dragon Lake. The half-human-shaped creature looked at Han Sen scornfully. Han Sen was dazed. Now he knew that the legendary creature in the Rolling Dragon Lake was this strange creature in front of him, not the Black Dragon. Rolling Dragon King walked to the side of the Black Pond. He picked up the sacred egg and held it in his palms. Kill him, Rolling Dragon King said mildly, looking at the sacred egg. The Black Dragon roared suddenly, then dashed toward Han Sen with the trident in its tail. Its claws and dragon teeth and trident were all terrifying weapons. Han Sen resisted the waves of attacks with his golden engraving shield. However, Han Sen kept stepping back under that aggressive force. The red light on Han Sen's body surged as a pair of butterfly wings opened on Han Sen's back, and at the same time, he entered bloodthirsty mode. Han Sen's power surged. He fought the Black Dragon for a long time, but it was a stalemate. Neither could defeat the other. The Rolling Dragon King apparently didn't intend to help the Black Dragon fight Han Senator. He pulled his arrow out of the Destroyer Wolf and wiped the blood on the wolf's fur. Then, he stabbed the arrow down towards the cracked egg. The arrow pierced the egg twice, but it couldn't penetrate the crack of the sacred egg. The Rolling Dragon King frowned. Then his body gave off a bizarre black light. The black light infused the arrow, and he stabbed the arrow back toward the egg again. Gotcha! The arrow finally pierced the egg. The tip and part of the shaft both went in. The Rolling Dragon King was exhilarated. He grabbed the arrow and tried to pull it back out. But in the next second, the Rolling Dragon King became horrified. He wasn't able to pull the arrow out of the egg. Instead, his entire body was trembling as if he was being electrified. Black light was being pulled rapidly from his body, along the arrow, and down into the egg. Rolling Dragon King, did you really think I didn't know you were the real master of Rolling Dragon Lake? The destroyer wolf that was presumed to be dead gradually crawled up from the ground, which was inconceivable. The holes in its chest and head were healing so fast that the wounds were visibly shrinking. It glared at Rolling Dragon King with its wolf eyes, and it had a bizarre smile on its face. You! The Rolling Dragon King was terrified as he realized that he had been tricked by the destroyer wolf. However, it was too late for him to regret now. His body was being pulled inescapably toward the sacred egg. His power kept flooding into the egg, making him weaker and weaker. The black dragon roared. It ditched Han Sen and rushed toward the Rolling Dragon King. It stabbed the sacred egg with the trident on its tail, trying to separate the sacred egg from the Rolling Dragon King. You're being suicidal. The destroyer wolf sneered, watching from the side. It wasn't trying to stop the black dragon at all. The black dragon's trident slammed into the sacred egg, but it immediately became stuck to the egg, and the egg began absorbing its power. It ended up just like the Rolling Dragon King. The two terrifying super creatures, which were possibly berserk super creatures, seemed utterly incapable of escaping from the sacred egg. Both the Rolling Dragon King and the Black Dragon were shocked to their very core. Han Sen was petrified. He had seen lots of descendants of two super beings before, and Sumi was a child of two emperors. However, he had never seen a descendant like this. It wasn't even born yet, but it was already able to wreck two super beings. Rolling Dragon King and the Black Dragon were being sucked dry, and it was a stunning thing to witness. The Rolling Dragon King seemed to have aged 1,000 years, and the scales on his snake tail were yellowing. His upper body looked old, and he wasn't as forceful as he had been before. He looked like an old man who was so skinny that his bones were visible. As for the Black Dragon, it wasn't doing any better. Its body was quickly aging as the essence inside its body was sucked out. The destroyer wolf looked at the withering Rolling Dragon King and said, "Everyone else thinks that the Black Dragon is the master of Rolling Dragon Lake, but I am exceptional. Do you really think you can trick me? Do you really think I came to Rolling Dragon Lake because I couldn't break the sacred egg? How naive are you?" As it spoke, the destroyer wolf squinted its eyes and a trace of light gleamed. "I came here because of the power of death in the Black Pond. Without that power of death, there's no way that the sacred egg could have incubated this soon. It's a descendant of sacred shelter. What does it have to do with the power of death?" Rolling Dragon King asked through clenched teeth. Destroyer Wolf sneered. "Are you an idiot? Don't you know that its mother is the Destroyer Empress? Her power is the power of death. The power that Sacred Egg inherited isn't just the power of Sacred's master, but also the Destroyer Empress's power of destruction. The power of Rolling Dragon Lake is the best way to nourish it. What good will it do you? Let us go, and we'll give you whatever you want," said the Rolling Dragon King. The sacred egg had almost sucked him dry. There was only a layer of skin covering his bone, and he looked more horrendous than a skull. "Idiot, what do you think you can offer me? Even if you both gave me your self-geno cores, they can't even begin to compare with this sacred egg." Destroyer Wolf's eyes were gleaming. The descendant of Sacred's master and the Destroyer Empress will have both the advantages of their genes. Since it was incubated, it has been nurtured by the godly fluids of Sacred's master, and with your power of death, the creature about to be born will be more perfect than any other berserk super creature. Once it's born, I'll merge its genes with mine. Then I'll become the most powerful creature in the fourth god's sanctuary. Don't count on it. Even me and Black Dragon are not its match. How do you think you'll manage to merge with it?" The bones of Rolling Dragon Emperor were starting to degrade. He fell on the ground beside the Black Dragon. "I have my ways, and you don't need to worry about it. Just wait for your death." After the Destroyer Wolf finished, it stopped giving 8D***MN about the Rolling Dragon King and the Black Dragon. "As for you, I really don't want to waste my time to kill you, but it'll take me a while to merge with the egg. If Sacred Shelter and Outer Sky learn about it, it'll be a pain in the *SS. "You should just die," said Destroyer Wolf as it stepped forward, its body entering a space vault. A crack showed up beside Han Sen, and a wolf head extended out, surging toward Han Sen's neck with its white teeth. Han Sen used the golden engraving shield on his shoulder to ward it off and defend himself against the bite of the Destroyer Wolf. Scrappy! The teeth of Destroyer Wolf and the shield ground against each other, and it made an annoying sound. The teeth of the Destroyer Wolf tore a part of the golden engraving shield off, and the golden engravings on the shield were dimming. It didn't have the power to reflect the attack. Han Sen was terrified. He had never seen a force that the golden engraving shield couldn't defend against. The Destroyer Wolf fell toward Han Senator. It looked at Han Sen coldly. My power is to swallow space, and I already control this space entirely. Where do you think your shield's reflecting power comes from? Your shield is nothing against me. Destroyer Wolf's body was dimming as it traveled through the space fault. Every time, it left red slashes across Han Sen's body. Han Sen couldn't catch up with the rapidly vanishing and reappearing wolf, and his body couldn't defend against the wolf's spatial powers. The wounds looked bizarre, like pieces of Han Sen's flesh were simply vanishing. Fortunately, the golden engraving shield warded off a large part of the attacks. Otherwise, Han Sen would have been eaten alive. Han Sen was frowning. The space-swallowing power of the Destroyer Wolf was indeed terrifying, and Han Sen couldn't handle its attacks. He couldn't see how its body was moving between the faults, nor could he guess how the power worked. He couldn't wield any of his advantages, and he was completely suppressed by Destroyer Wolf. Han Sen clenched his teeth, and gleaming holy light rushed out of his body. His hair immediately grew longer, and shining light flowed from his eyes. He went into the Super King Spirit mode. The Super King Spirit was different from Han Sen's usual power. A human's body didn't grow stronger when their self-geno core leveled up, but creatures and spirits were more closely connected with their cores. The Super King's Spirit mode made Han Sen like a creature or spirit. His body became more powerful as his geno cores improved. As of yet, the coin geno core hadn't been upgraded, so the power given by the Super King Spirit mode wasn't very strong. However, Han Sen didn't enter Super King Spirit mode to improve his power. After he entered the Super Spirit mode, Han Sen rushed toward the sacred egg. He slapped toward the sacred egg with his palm in an attempt to knock the sacred egg away from the Rolling Dragon King and the Black Dragon. He didn't want to save them. Destroyer Wolf wanted the sacred egg to absorb power, but without a connection to the Rolling Dragon King and the Black Dragon, the sacred egg wouldn't be incubated. That was why Han Sen saved Rolling Dragon King and the Black Dragon. No matter what they were going to do, the Destroyer Wolf would have to deal with them first, so this was Han Sen's chance. Destroyer Wolf saw Han Sen slapping toward the sacred egg, and it sneered. You want to touch the sacred egg? You're being suicidal. However, the Destroyer Wolf didn't stop attacking. On the contrary, it appeared behind Han Sen and snatched Han Sen's neck with its space-swallowing power. Han Sen didn't turn back. He moved the severely damaged shield to cover his back, and at the same time, he slapped the sacred egg with his left hand. Two noises echoed at the same time. The Destroyer Wolf left 3 deep scars on the shield with its claws, piercing almost all the way through the shield. However, unlike what Han Sen had expected, that sacred egg didn't exert any magnetic force on him, but it didn't separate from the Rolling Dragon King and Black Dragon either. Instead, the sacred egg, Rolling Dragon King, and the Black Dragon all spun away at the same time. The 3 of them fell into the black pond. They sank, splashing the dark water everywhere. The Destroyer Wolf was surprised when it saw that Han Sen wasn't drawn towards the sacred egg. Then it roared and dashed toward Han Sen again. Han Sen dodged it while trying to think of a method to defend himself against the Destroyer Wolf, but nothing came to mind. I have to resort to Destiny's Tower now. Han Sen knew that if he kept doing this, he would be killed before too long. The best chance for him to survive was to use his Blood Legion technique and his Destiny's Tower before too much of his energy was consumed. Before Han Sen could activate the technique, the water in the black pond suddenly surged upwards. A terrifying force rushed out of the black pond. The Destroyer Wolf and Han Sen both dodged away from the splashing black pond water. At the same time, they looked at the black pond, trying to figure out what was going on. A stream of black light rose from the black pond like the sun escaping an eclipse, and then the light floated on the water. That terrifying force came from the stream of black light, and the entire cave was covered by the sensation of death. The black light gradually withdrew, but the force of death became stronger and stronger. After the light went away, Han Sen missed a heartbeat after seeing what emerged. A beautiful woman walked out of the black pond. She was wearing black armor and carrying a long black bow. She had a pair of black wings like that of a crow, and her hair was dark like ink while her eyes were deep like an abyss. Her entire body emanated a beautiful yet ferocious force, as if she were an angel descending into hell. It has finally incubated. The destroyer wolf's eyes were glinting like crazy. It stopped fighting Han Sen and rushed toward the female just hatched from the sacred egg. Han Sen didn't move towards the egg. It wasn't because he was afraid that he couldn't defeat Destroyer Wolf, but that the force of death coming from that woman was too horrifying. To Han Sen, the woman was more terrifying than Destroyer Wolf. Perhaps the Destroyer Wolf had already prepared itself enough that it thought it could gain something from the woman, but as for Han Sen, he didn't think he could gain any power from her. That woman was floating above the black pond. Though she had her eyes open, her eyes looked hollow, as if she didn't have any soul. The Destroyer Wolf opened its mouth wide, and it bit the woman's neck with its barb-like fangs. Those white teeth were actually hollow inside. As they bit into the woman's neck, the blood filled the wolf's teeth, dyeing them black. The woman's blood was actually black, which made Destroyer Wolf more excited. It bit deeper and harder into her neck so that it could absorb the power faster. The female seemed to have felt the pain. She frowned, and some sort of thought finally appeared to cross her dark eyes. More. I want more. I want the most perfect and the most powerful genes. The Destroyer Wolf sucked as it roared crazily. The woman's body seemed to be very sturdy. The wolf's teeth could only go a little bit deeper, and the harder it bit, the more difficult it was. However, the black blood kept flooding into the fangs of Destroyer Wolf, and at the same time, black smoke drifted out of its white wolf fur. Its body seemed to be going through some changes. Han Sen was surprised. Humans, creatures, or even spirits could evolve by eating the flesh and blood of creatures. However, while eating creature flesh could strengthen one's genes, the genes of the original body would always be the foundation. The changes Destroyer Wolf was experiencing were a bit different. Its body seemed to have accepted the foreign genes completely, and its body was going through some changes that shouldn't have happened. The black smoke from the Destroyer Wolf was getting denser and denser, and its originally white fur had turned completely dark. The flesh on its back was twisted, as if something was about to extend from its spine. Han Sen didn't know what to do. He thought that a terrifying being like that woman would have fought the Destroyer Wolf to the death, yet she wasn't reacting at all. Instead, she was just standing there, letting the Destroyer Wolf suck her blood. As the Destroyer Wolf drank her blood, its power became much stronger. Though the woman's facial expression changed a little bit, she was still floating there without any actual reactions. After such a long time, her blood must have been almost completely drained, and now it was too late for her to react. Though she looks like goddess, she's only a newborn, after all. She might not have enough intelligence to know what's happening, Han Sen thought. After a short while, the flesh on Destroyer Wolf's back exploded, and blood splashed everywhere. A pair of bloody wings extended. The wings looked raw and bloody, as fur was still growing across them. However, the wings were growing fast, and they darkened until they resembled the woman's wings. Power. Strong power. Fascinating. Destroyer Wolf was greedy, and it kept sucking until it drained all of the woman's blood. After that, it took out its teeth and roared at the sky. Its body was covered with black fire emanating the force of death, and its wings spread wide behind it. As it roared, its black wings gave off the feeling of death as well. As for the woman who had been sucked dry, she fell to the floor of the cave like a lifeless puppet. Her eyes were still open like black holes, but there wasn't any life force in her. Perhaps she was dead already. Han Sen sighed and rushed toward the water on top of the cave. He had completely lost his chance already. Destroyer Wolf had finished merging, and it was more powerful than ever. Even its previous power had been terrifying. Han Sen's Blood Legion technique could only last for a while, So he didn't want to risk anything before he was sure that he could defeat Destroyer Wolf in a short period of time. Do you want to go? Destroyer Wolf sneered, shook its wings, and shot toward Han Sen with its terrifying force of death. Han Sen frowned, and a 3-foot-long pipe that looked like it was made of gray stone showed up in his hands. That stone pipe was a Geno core called Blow Blood that Han Sen had obtained from Ghost Eye. He had been using his Geno core Real Blood to break its restrictions, so both Geno cores had been sitting and used in his Sea of Soul. Han Sen almost forgot about it until he heard a voice in his head. Obtained Emperor Geno core Blow Blood. Han Sen then discovered that the restrictions on Blow Blood had been removed by Real Blood, and the Emperor core had been activated so that Han Sen could use it anytime. Han Sen needed to use the Blood Legion technique to summon Destiny's Tower, so he wouldn't be able to use that core for very long. Now that he had another Emperor Geno core, it was time for Han Sen to see how useful it would be. So Ghost Eye wasn't lying. It is indeed an Emperor Geno core, Han Sen whispered, lifting Blow Blood in his hands. The fact that the Panther had told the truth was actually rather surprising. He saw Destroyer Wolf approaching him, so he didn't have much time to think anymore. Han Sen infused his power into Blow Blood, and he used it like a knife. He raced toward Destroyer Wolf with it.
Yang!
A terrifying force hit Blow Blood, and Han Sen lost his grip on the Geno core. It flew out of his hands. Han Sen also hit the mountain behind him, spitting blood out. D***MN, is that really an Emperor Geno core? Why is it completely useless? Han Sen was deeply upset. The Geno core didn't seem to be doing him any good. Other than being so solid that even the Destroyer Wolf's teeth couldn't break it, it didn't exert any exceptional power, and it was even inferior to Han Sen's Taya sword. The Destroyer Wolf didn't give Han Sen a chance to think. It dashed toward Han Sen in an instant. With its powers of death and space, it reached toward Han Sen's chest. Wong. Han Sen summoned his Destiny's Tower. After a shocking sound, Blow Blood flew up off the ground and shot toward Han Sen like an arrow. The Destroyer Wolf sensed that something was flying toward it with incredible energy. It gave up attacking Han Sen and tried to dodge. Blow Blood fell into Han Sen's palm. Blow Blood was rippling with power. Han Sen grabbed it with his hands, but he didn't know how to use it. That strike had proven that Blow Blood shouldn't be used like an ordinary blade or sword. So Han Sen couldn't figure out how to use it instantly. What? Why is the Geno core of Drink Blood Emperor in your hands? And why is it activated? When Destroyer Wolf identified Blow Blood, it looked shocked. Drink Blood Emperor had been very famous, and Blow Blood had been one of the top 10 Geno cores in the sanctuary. Destroyer Wolf wasn't a stranger to it. Instead, the creature was kind of intimidated by it. However, it was only afraid for a short while. After an instant, Destroyer Wolf dismissed his own fear, becoming hostile and belligerent again. It said coldly, I might have been intimidated by this thing yesterday, but not anymore. I've merged myself with the most perfect and powerful genes, and that Geno core is nothing to me. Even if Drink Blood Emperor comes here himself, he'll regret it. Destroyer Wolf rushed toward Han Sen with his raging powers of space and death. The creature was even more ferocious than last time. Just as Han Sen was thinking about how to use Blow Blood, the Geno core started to move without his control. One end of the stone pipe touched Han Sen's lips, while the other end pointed right at Destroyer Wolf. Is it like a flute? Should I just blow it? Han Sen tried to blow it. After that, the air and blood inside Han Sen's body felt like they were tumbling, and the blood of his heart flooded out his mouth and into that stone pipe. A bloody arrow was fired out of the stone pipe, and it flew directly at the Destroyer Wolf's paws as it rushed toward Han Senator. The Destroyer Wolf failed to dodge it.
Puh.
The bloody arrow cut off a part of the Destroyer Wolf's paw, disrupting its powers of space and death. Wow. No wonder it's called Blow Blood Geno core. I can actually blow my blood out with this thing. Han Sen was surprised but exhilarated. The power of Blow Blood was amazing, and it was indeed an Emperor Geno core. One spit of blood could cut through the evolved Destroyer Wolf's paw. He was only concerned about the fact that he was using up his own blood, as he didn't have much blood to lose. Destroyer Wolf roared furiously, and it moved into a space fault. Then it appeared at Han Sen's back, trying to tear him apart. Han Sen then saw something amazing. When the Destroyer Wolf moved, Blood moved as well. The end of the pipe pointed right at Destroyer Wolf as it emerged. Han Sen didn't hesitate at all, and he blew his blood out again. Though Destroyer Wolf was very fast, the bloody arrow still hit its legs and tore a gruesome wound. Blood flooded out. Han Sen clenched his teeth, and he blew his blood out again and again without paying attention to what reached Destroyer Wolf and what didn't. Then, he leaped back into the lake and swam away from the underground cave. Destroyer Wolf didn't dare to fight the bloody arrows directly. After it dodged the attacks, it rushed out to chase Han Sen. Neither of them realized that one of the bloody arrows Han Sen fired reached the female whose blood had been sucked dry, and the blood sipped into her body. After that bloody arrow entered her body, her face regained color, and she gradually became more and more lively. The blood flooded the woman's body, flowing in her veins, making her more and more dynamic as if her body was gradually recovering. You're reading on .com, thanks. Her originally hollow eyes became more dynamic, losing the dullness that had haunted them since she was born. All the bloody arrows that Han Sen unleashed fell on the ground, and the blood rolled toward the woman as if it were being attracted by a magnet. Drops of blood sank through her skin and slipped into her veins, and she became more and more lively, and her face turned redder and redder. She now finally looked like an actual living creature. The woman had been full of a deathly power, but she lost that ability after absorbing Han Sen's blood. Instead, she was now giving out a bizarre power. It had the silence of death, but it also felt rather different. Even if Han Sen was there, he wouldn't have been able to tell exactly how it was different. He could only feel that something had changed. Han Sen and the Destroyer Wolf had no idea what kind of strange alterations were happening to the woman. A human and a wolf hurtled out of Rolling Dragon Lake, and the wolf chased the human into the sky. The bloodline of the Sacred Egg came from both Sacred's Master and Destroyer Empress, but after absorbing the power of death from Rolling Dragon King and the Black Dragon and being born from the Black Pond, she had too much deathly power. Her hereditary abilities from Destroyer Empress were completely activated, and they suppressed her inheritance from Sacred's Master. There was too much deathly power piling up in her body, which was very bad for a newborn baby. If the newborn baby kept absorbing the power of death, it would become exactly the same as Destroyer Empress, and there would be nothing special about her. Destroyer Wolf drained the blood of the newborn, and at the same time, it also took away the excessive deathly power inside her. That meant the Destroyer Wolf didn't actually merge all the genes of the newborn. Instead, it only obtained the genes of her destruction abilities. The blood and genes of the newborn were finally balanced, as her whole body was now growing instead of just the part that belonged to Destroyer Empress. However, she didn't only lose the power that had been dammed up inside her. She also lost her blood, which had caused her to slip into a coma. When Han Sen's blood fell on her body and soaked into her, she recovered quickly. As the newborn absorbed Han Sen's blood, she obtained some of his genes, and her own genes also changed slightly because of the blood she absorbed. Han Sen's blood was like a geno solution, which merged the two different bloodlines of the newborn and created a unique new power that neither of the original powers possessed. Han Sen didn't expect his blood to be this useful. At that time, he was spewing out his blood recklessly. Blood kept bursting from the stone pipe, and though it wasn't hitting the Destroyer Wolf, the enormous power was enough to destroy an entire mountain. After Han Sen fired 4 or 5 bloody arrows, the mountains around them were already in ruins. I was walking around with 2 super creatures, looking for any opportunities that might come their way. As they walked, they watched the mountains nearby explode, and then Han Sen and the Destroyer Wolf flew by in front of them. Han Sen fired at the Destroyer Wolf with blood. The blood light shone, and the Destroyer Wolf dodged. The mountain behind the wolf wasn't so lucky. The trace of blood light ravaged the mountain, and that power was mesmerizing. That is blood. No way. Eye opened its eyes and mouth wide, and it looked like it had just eaten a fly. It had been kept blood for a long time, so it knew the Geno Core perfectly well. It could easily identify the weapon in Han Sen's hands. It tried to console itself that Han Sen might be wielding some other Geno Core. After a short while, Ghost Eye saw the power of blow blood, just as described in the legends, and the creature couldn't lie to himself anymore.
D***men.
That's blow blood. Is that B** starred the master of the Geno Core? How did he activate it? Ghost Eye was so upset that it started to see red. Its eyes popped, and it watched Han Sen fight Destroyer Wolf in the sky. Little Master, that seems to be Destroyer Wolf. What happened to him? A super creature asked while staring at the Destroyer Wolf. Is that Destroyer Wolf? The rumors say that it's a giant wolf, and it's white. Ghost Eye said, glancing at the wolf in the sky. I am not sure whether that is it or not. The super creature hesitated. The Destroyer Wolf now looked completely different than it had before, and the characteristics of its power had changed sharply as well. Even those who had seen it before couldn't be sure if this was actually it. Han Sen then yelled loudly, Destroyer Wolf is here. It has eaten the sacred egg. Han Sen's voice wasn't loud, but he was powerful, and his voice spread widely. Those like Goddess, who were already attracted by the ripples of power, were deeply upset upon hearing what Han Sen said. They flew across the sky and rushed toward Destroyer Wolf. You deserve to die, Destroyer Wolf. Goddess's face turned pale with rage. She also saw the power of destruction coming from the Destroyer Wolf, so she didn't have any doubts anymore. She rushed toward it with the super creatures following her. I've already obtained the most perfect and powerful genes. I will definitely rule the world in the future. If you want to make yourself my enemy, you're the one that deserves to die. Destroyer Wolf couldn't be more arrogant, and it now looked upon those from Sacred Shelter with disdain. Its powers of space and berserk death combined in its body, and it wanted to fight the 5 enemies all at once and kill them all. Instead of fighting Destroyer Wolf, Han Sen quickly escaped from the battlefield. He landed on a mountain in the distance to watch the fight. All the powerful creatures nearby rushed toward the fight after hearing what had happened. They all gathered to watch the fight between Destroyer Wolf and Goddess's group. All 4 of the super creatures beside Goddess were renowned beings who had impressive reputations in Sacred Shelter, but now, they were all simultaneously suppressed by the Destroyer Wolf. They had to retreat again and again, and it seemed that they were not the Destroyer Wolf's match. Sumi had stayed beside Rolling Dragon Lake all along, and he refused to leave. He saw Destroyer Wolf and a strange creature rush out of the lake, but he didn't see Han Senator. He was kind of worried. Just as he wanted to enter the water to see if Han Sen had run into some danger, he saw Bauer exit the water and jump to the shore. Bauer, where is my teacher? Asked Sumi to Bauer. Father still has something to do down there. He told me to tell you that you don't need to worry about him, and don't go into the water, Bauer said, blinking her eyes. Sumi felt relieved, and he turned to watch the fight in the sky. Anyone who helps me kill Destroyer Wolf will be greatly rewarded by Sacred Shelter, yelled Goddess. There were 5 of them fighting one Destroyer Wolf, yet they were still not its match. The body of one of the super creatures was torn apart by the Destroyer Wolf, and its blood splashed across the sky. Don't worry, Goddess. I'll come help you. Yu Miao rushed toward them with some spirits. Nobody knew what she was thinking as she aided Goddess. Not only Yu Miao, but many great beings rushed toward the Destroyer Wolf. All of a sudden, there were terrifying life forces flowing everywhere. After consuming the blood of the newborn, the Destroyer Wolf was indeed incredible. It was fighting so many creatures all by itself, yet nobody was able to do anything to it. You dare to antagonize me. I'll kill you all today. Destroyer Wolf yelled at the sky, and terrifying deathly power burst from the creature. Han Sen watched in the distance for a while, yet those great beings were all crushed by Destroyer Wolf. Their attempts at entrapment were useless against an enemy that could travel through space. That Destroyer Wolf will be a big problem if I don't kill it. Han Sen frowned as he watched the Destroyer Wolf roaming wherever it pleased. Destroyer Wolf had seen him become a Super King spirit, and the wolf was definitely an enemy now. Han Sen certainly wanted to kill it, but the Destroyer Wolf's powers of death and space were a difficult combo to deal with. It could easily travel between space faults, so it would be difficult to kill. There were at least 30 super creatures encircling it now, yet none of them could do anything to it. Instead, many of them were getting gravely injured. There were also many super creatures watching the fight, and some of them were incredibly powerful. Han Sen saw that Gu Qingqing was also observing the fight from a distance. She wasn't certain that she could kill the destroyer wolf, so she could only watch the fight without doing anything. Han Sen watched for a while as he thought, there are so many powerful creatures here, so perhaps my coin Geno core can finally be put to use. Though the coin Geno core had a low level, the nature of its power could still be useful. It was normally rather useless, but now, surrounded by so many powerful creatures, things were different. The super creatures here were all like billionaires. If the Geno core could absorb a little power from each of them, the power inside the coin would be inconceivable. The only problem now is, how can I hit the body of that destroyer wolf with coin? Han Sen glared at the destroyer wolf that was blinking between locations, trying to find a chance to hit it with the Geno core. The destroyer wolf was moving quickly, and sacred blood was splashing everywhere. It was powerful beyond imagination. Sumi took Bauer to Gu Qingqing. Gu Qingqing took a look at Bauer and asked, "Where is Han Sen? Teacher had something important to do, so he hasn't come back yet." Sumi looked at the fight in the sky and asked, "Sister Gu, do you think they can defeat that destroyer wolf? That will be difficult. The power of that destroyer wolf has surged, and nobody can stop its attacking power. But that's not even the problem. His space-swallowing power is just incredible. Its ability to travel between space faults makes it too difficult to kill. If Sacred's group doesn't choose to leave, there will be a lot of casualties here today," said Gu Qingqing mildly. "You're reading on. Contenkis." Sumi shook his head and said, "Destroyer Wolf might not be able to do that. Though it's indeed powerful, it still can't compare with the emperors throughout the fourth god's sanctuary. If it actually goes reckless today, it won't be able to stay in this sanctuary anymore." As Sumi spoke, Destroyer Wolf tore apart a spirit from outer sky, and it didn't show any sign of stopping. It seemed that it needed to kill everyone present to sate its bloodlust. "It's gone mad." Sumi smiled. Gu Qingqing said, "It's suddenly got such incredible power, so it's normal that it's arrogant and rash. It's probably powerful enough to rival some of the strongest emperors now. Goddess, let's go. Destroyer Wolf is too powerful, and there's nothing we can do about it," yelled a super creature following Goddess. Another spirit was also trying to persuade Yumiao to retreat. Some of the spirits and mutant creatures watching the fight also fled the area. "You want to go? Not that easily. I'll kill you all today, and no one will survive." The destroyer wolf was reckless. It grabbed a super creature that looked like an elephant and broke its neck. It took a bite, then roared at the sky. All of a sudden, a trace of golden light broke the sky and flew toward it. Just when Destroyer Wolf had reached its peak, the gold light hit the Destroyer Wolf's neck and stuck to it. Everyone was staring at the Destroyer Wolf, and they could all clearly see the golden coin stuck on the wolf's neck. Everyone, including the Destroyer Wolf, looked back at where the golden coin had flown from. Han Sen was standing there in his Super King spirit mode. All the super creatures were dazed. Apparently, no one recognized Han Sen as a Super King spirit. Destroyer Wolf sneered, and its eyes were bulging with rage. "You again? Great, then I'll kill you first." The Destroyer Wolf's deathly power surged as it flew toward Han Sen. Han Sen didn't say anything. Instead, he clicked his fingers. All of a sudden, the golden coin on the wolf's neck started to gleam, and the wolf's body paused for a bit. As for the other super creatures, they were all horrified as they noticed that a little of their power was seeping out of their bodies and drifting toward the golden coin on the Destroyer Wolf's neck. All the creatures were trying to stop their power from leaving, but it was completely useless. That part of their power didn't seem to belong to them anymore, as it was completely out of their control. Even Gu Qingqing looked ill. A part of her power was also being sucked away. Even with her strength, she wasn't able to slow it down. She was horrified, and she couldn't help looking at the master of that golden coin. As a matter of fact, all the creatures around were staring at Han Sen in shock. Some random guy with a random golden coin was able to steal their power from their control. When they looked at the Destroyer Wolf, the super creatures were even more horrified. The Destroyer Wolf, who had previously been dominating the battle, was now being suppressed completely like it was being crushed under a mountain. Its body was shaking, and then the creature was falling through the air. Bam! With a giant sound, the destroyer wolf hit the ground hard enough to form a crater. The Geno core couldn't gather power from a very large area, so it usually wasn't very strong. However, there were too many super creatures around, so they could give the coin much more power than usual, which was why the golden coin was stronger than ever before. Han Sen was exhilarated, as the coin was performing much better than he had expected. It was even able to absorb power from all those super creatures. It was absolutely incredible, as it was only a silver Geno core, and it hadn't even reached the level of gold Geno core yet. Every creature here had at least a gemstone Geno core, and many had super Geno cores. But none of them could resist the absorbing power of the coin. The destroyer wolf struggled and tried to move into a space vault, yet its body was trembling, and it couldn't even take a step. Its head was particularly immobile, and the creature had a hard time even raising it. The wolf's head was getting lower and lower, and it almost touched the ground. It kept roaring, but its head just kept sinking. Boom! Amidst the angry roaring, Destroyer Wolf's head fell to the ground. No matter how loudly it roared, it could not move. All the super elites were frozen. They were terrified. They knew how powerful Destroyer Wolf was, but that one little coin was able to bring the beast's head down to the ground and prevent it from being lifted up. Han Sen's mystique rose even higher in their hearts. As those watching were still reeling in shock, Han Sen placed the stone pipe to his lips. Then, he blew down at the wolf. It flashed red, and then that light went straight into the wolf's head, tearing it apart. Berserk super creature Destroyer Wolf killed. Destroyer Wolf Beast Soul has been obtained. Geno Core unobtained. Flesh inedible. Collect its life Geno essence to receive 0 to 10 super Geno points randomly. Han Sen was delighted. He had managed to earn another Berserk Super Beast Soul. The other super elites, seeing the Destroyer Wolf's head split open, looked stunned. They all turned to look at Han Sen as he went forward to the body that was fading away. Their foreheads started to produce a cold sweat. Han Sen grabbed the life Geno essence that the wolf's corpse had left behind, and then turned to look at the super elites. After that, he disappeared. When Han Sen disappeared in midair, the super elites all felt a grand wash of relief. The mounting pressure they had experienced finally began to lift. That did not mean Han Sen was powerful. They merely thought Han Sen was powerful. Killing Destroyer Wolf was something unimaginably scary. Of course, they were just scaring themselves more than anything. The pressure they felt was unwarranted. This is scary. Who was that? Was that the alpha of some race? I have never heard about him before. It looked like a spirit, though. I thought it looked like a creature, personally. No, that was a spirit. Bullsh asterisk T. That was a creature. Did you guys see the stone pipe he used to slay Destroyer Wolf? It looked like Drink Blood Emperor's Blow Blood Geno Core. It did look like it, yes. It didn't just look like it. That was it for sure. I saw Drink Blood Emperor use it once. I thought Emperor class elites couldn't open it once it was sealed. How did he manage to activate it? The power to open that Geno Core is not something we can comprehend. Goddess looked to the point where Han Sen vanished. Her beautiful eyes looked strange, and she said, "When did such a powerful being come to exist here?" Yu Miao looked in that direction, too. She couldn't tell it was Han Sen, however. Gu Qingsheng merely frowned. The power that had been forcibly taken from her had now been returned, and she was surprised. What a weird power. Who is he? Gu Qingsheng could not tell it was Han Sen, either. Sumi looked on in admiration, and he said, "That person is so strong. I wonder what race he is. I should have asked him." As the crowds began to leave, conversations started to revolve around Han Senator. The image of Han Sen as a Super King spirit was now all over the Fourth God Sanctuary, and they really wanted to find out who he was. No one knew who it was until humans from the Third God Sanctuary came, claiming to have seen him before. They recognized him. That was Dollar. Our human Dollar. Dollar is strong. So many super creatures and king spirits were unable to bring down Destroyer Wolf, and he killed it in a flash. That's pretty scary. Wherever Dollar goes, he is strong. Dollar is like a god. He is finally here. The creatures and spirits did not believe it was a human. They did not think it was possible for this Dollar to be a human, but strangely, only humans seemed to recognize him. No others did. No matter what the case might have been, however, Dollar's name was spoken all across the Fourth God's sanctuary. All the factions spoke about him, but no one knew much about him. His identity and location were unknown. The saddest being in the sanctuary, at the time, must have been Ghost Eye. He had ever expected that Han Sen would be able to unseal Blow Blood. Seeing Blow Blood's ability to kill strong creatures such as Destroyer Wolf, Ghost Eye's eyes were now bleeding. Han Sen left the battleground and found a place with no one around to see him deactivate his Super King spirit mode. He returned to the image of his real self, and then circled back to Rolling Dragon Lake. Then, he went into the underwater cave. He wanted to see if the dead woman from the sacred egg was still there. If the body had remained, it would be a shame to waste it. The woman was dead, and the flesh was just a vessel. It would be a good deed to benefit from the death of another creature. Han Sen, thinking this, then entered the underwater cave. After looking inside the cave, he was surprised to see the body was actually gone. Was she like Destroyer Wolf and couldn't be eaten? Did she just disappear when she died?
Han Sen frov ned.
Normally, if the flesh of super creatures was inedible, they'd just disappear. But she hadn't, as far as he'd seen. This one confused him. Han Sen poked around for a bit, and even used his weapons to swing around in the black pond. He found nothing, though. He left the underwater cave then, to meet up with Gu Qingqing. Blood Feet Beast was traveling across the mountains at the time, in a very angry mood. He was a super creature, but he hadn't received any benefits from the killing of the wolf. He was also injured. As he was walking, he saw a small creature that was flapping its black wings. Blood Feet Beast was hungry, so it ran up to it and tried to eat the creature. Before Blood Feet Beast pounced, the small body raised a black bow. The sound of a plucked string rang through the air, accompanying the flight of a black arrow that punched a hole through the creature's head. Pang! Blood Feet Beast's head and body blew up. It was very dead. The small creature did not look back. It just flapped its wings and left the area. If Han Sen was there, he'd have recognized that creature. That small creature was the woman from the sacred egg. Back at the shelter, Han Sen had the time to examine the Destroyer Wolf Beast Soul. Berserk Super Beast Soul Destroyer Wolf, Charm Type. Han Sen saw this and was quite surprised. He didn't know what a Charm Beast Soul was. He had never heard of it before. Han Sen summoned the Destroyer Wolf next, to examine what the Charm Beast Soul could do. Destroyer Wolf flew out from the Sea of Soul and became a charm that was about the same size as Han Sen's palm. The charm was pitch black in color, and it was engraved with the depiction of a wolf with wings. It looked just like Destroyer Wolf itself did. After it evolved, Han Sen looked at the charm a few times. He felt a deathly aura and residual space powers entwining all around it. It was a scary little thing, and he didn't have a clue how it worked. Han Sen spent the next few days researching it, and when he discovered what its purpose was, he was delighted. Charm-type beast souls were special, and much of the information Han Sen uncovered was from the Alliance. He read on Skynet about a person who had come into possession of a charm-type beast soul. The person said he had figured out how to use it, and the post he had made was basically just the man showing off. But at least it was informative enough to teach Han Sen how to use it. Charm beast souls could resurrect dead creatures. The resurrected creature would then adhere to the charm, and the charm explicitly, not the person who operated it. When the charm was placed on someone, the creature you summoned would follow that person until death. It did not matter if the target was living or dead, but the charm would be destroyed. And that meant the charm beast soul was a single-use item. At least it was a strong one. Destroyer Wolf was a mighty foe. Even if Han Sen chose a target that had a super creature for protection, they'd be easily slain. There was one downside to the item, however. He could only use it once. Han Sen wouldn't want to use it until it was a proper life or death moment. The person he read about must have used the charm beast soul to discover its purpose, as before that, there was no such information in the Alliance. Not many people believed the post, though, and many people thought it was a straight-up lie. With nothing else to do, Han Sen went to the Geno Core storage. He received many invitations to battle, and one repeated challenge was from Ghost Eye. That kid dares challenge me again? Has he finally given up on living? Han Sen accepted the challenge, wondering what the pest wanted this time. The moment Han Sen stepped into the battleground, Ghost Eye began shouting, "Congratulations on unsealing Blood Geno Core. Now you know I wasn't lying, eh?" "Congratulations for what?" "I sold it off, because I wasn't able to unseal it, either." "There's no use congratulating me," Han Sen said coldly. Ghost Eye looked shocked. "Are you joking? You are Dollar, surely. If I was Dollar, I wouldn't waste my breath with talk. I'd just kill you." Han Sen put on his annoyed face, and then went on to say your piece or get lost. Ghost Eye stared at Han Sen, unsure if he was telling the truth, but he didn't dare continue pestering him. "So," he said, "boss, about that other thing. I want to buy your first place rank. Name your price, and I'll meet the demand if I can." "Okay, 1 Super Geno Core," Han Sen said. "Boss, I only have a Silver Geno Core. How am I supposed to obtain a Super Geno Core? I gave you my Emperor Geno Core, didn't I? That was my only one." Ghost Eye looked bitter, but on the inside, he was thinking, "You are evil. You want to trade a Super Geno Core for the first rank on the Silver Geno Core leaderboard. Do you think that is something someone can get on a whim? Who is to know the broken thing you gave me was an Emperor Geno Core? I sold it like the junk I thought it was. It makes me mad that you didn't tell me how powerful it might have been. You should have told me sooner, as now I have lost it," Han Sen said menacingly. Ghost Eye was enraged, but he didn't dare argue. "So," he said, "boss, didn't I tell you a few times? You just didn't believe me."
Fine.
"I will forget about that. So, do you want to buy it once or buy it off?" Han Sen looked at Ghost Eye as he spoke. "What does buying it once or buying it off mean?" "Buying it once adheres to the rules of our first deal. You rent it temporarily, and when you're done, you give it back to me. If you buy it off completely, you're purchasing permanent ownership. Then, I won't expect you to return it." "What are the prices for each package?" "Once and off?" Ghost Eye asked. "Buying it once will cost you a Gemstone Geno Core. If you buy it off, it's that price times 10, Han Sen said. Ghost Eye thought to himself, he must think I'm crazy. Of course I'll just buy it once, because he can't guarantee the return or do anything to me. Anyway, I was fine even after I didn't return it the last time. "Boss, I would like to buy it once," Ghost Eye said politely. "Okay, but if you buy it once, we're going to have to hammer out a contract."
Han Sen smiled.
"What contract?" Ghost Eye asked. "If you buy my first place and do not give me the first rank back, you have to reimburse me with 10 Super Geno Cores. This will be inked onto a contract as proof."
Han Sen smiled.
"Okay, I'll sign it. I'll give it back. Put faith in me this second time." Ghost Eye was very happy, and he thought to himself, what is the point of making a contract? He can't find me in Hell Shelter. He won't be able to find its location, and even if he did, he wouldn't dare come. Then let's make the contract. Han Sen pulled out a pen and paper. Then, Ghost Eye wrote down the words Han Sen asked him to write. Then, he placed a paw print on it. "Boss, how's this?" Ghost Eye returned the contract to Han Sen, alongside a Sacred Blood Geno Core. Han Sen reviewed the contract, folded it up, and said, "Okay, now you're first." Han Sen conceded and left the Geno battleground. Then, he challenged Ghost Eye again. Ghost Eye saw Han Sen's challenge request, but ignored it. Then he said, "Pa, so naive. Who would return it to you? I am going to sell this first rank before anything else happens." Han Sen knew Ghost Eye wouldn't be honest, though. He didn't mind selling it for a Sacred Blood Geno Core, as the contract might pay dividends further down the line. Han Sen wasn't going to let Ghost Eye off the hook, either. He left the Geno Core storage and leveled his Crystal Core up to gold. Then, he returned to the Geno Core storage with Bulwark Umbrella. Ghost Eye had already schemed what to do, and as soon as the deal was done, he contacted the buyer. But as soon as he made contact with the person, he lost his first rank position. "Ghost Eye, are you trying to trick me again?" The spirit that wished to make a trade with Ghost Eye spoke with a cold tone of voice.
No.
What the F***ck happened? Ghost Eye looked disheartened. He had been super quick, so how could someone have already usurped his position? Does this have something to do with that guy? Ghost Eye saw that the first rank was now occupied by Bulwark Umbrella. He kept thinking about it, and soon, A chill ran down his spine. If both of those Geno cores did belong to Han Sen, Ghost Eye couldn't fathom how powerful he might have been. He must have had many Geno cores that could reach first place through the testing. Ghost Eye didn't dare think it was all the machination of one person, however. He thought the cores must have belonged to a faction. No one would have expected all those Geno cores to be owned by one individual. Han Sen used Bulwark Umbrella to achieve first place and immediately claimed the 9 reinforcements. He used gold core lights to then push it up to a gold-class Geno core. Then, Ghost Eye noticed he was back in first place. This brought back his cheer, and he said, "Haha, it looks like the Umbrella's master was testing at a bad time. He must have leveled it up to gold straight away after reinforcing it 9 times. It looks like my luck is still here." Ghost Eye contacted the buyer spirit again, wanting to sell off his position, but when they established the time and place to do so, the Geno core leaderboard started to shine. The rankings changed again. Ghost Eye felt awful. It was like sitting on a roller coaster of emotions. With the constant twists and turns, he felt as if his heart was going to explode. Ghost Eye, what is the meaning of this? The spirit was maddened. He stared at Ghost Eye with eyes filled with anger. Ghost Eye was depressed. He opened his mouth but found himself at a loss for words. Coin had achieved first place in the Geno core storage. It was a huge shock, and everyone in the Fourth God's Sanctuary was starting to think it might have belonged to the almighty dollar that had managed to fell the Destroyer Wolf. If they were related, and it was only a silver Geno core that had been used to destroy Destroyer Wolf, its might was frightening to think about. Some creatures believed the coin Geno core had to be the Geno core that toppled Destroyer Wolf. Some thought they weren't related. It was quite the argument. Some people couldn't wait to challenge Coin's master to see if the Geno core did indeed belong to Dollar. Han Sen didn't care much for that, though. He accepted his first rank and just left without agreeing to any of the proposed matches. Afterwards, though, Han Sen did not level up Coin to gold. He was planning on using it on Ghost Eye. Crystal Core, Real Blood, and Bulwark Umbrella were now gold class. He'd be reaching the bottleneck once they leveled up again, as getting them up through the ranks of Super would be difficult. Han Sen absorbed the Life Geno Essence from Destroyer Wolf. He received 8 Super Geno points from it, bringing his total tally of such points to 34. Han Sen's body had gotten considerably stronger. What he needed to focus on now, primarily, was how he might max out his Super Geno points. Han Sen had the power necessary to kill super creatures, but there weren't many out there that were solo. Most super creatures belonged to proper super shelters, and so finding an appropriate target would be arduous work. As Han Sen wondered where he might be able to find and kill a super creature, Lady Chef returned to the shelter with shocking news. She said Outer Sky Shelter had attracted the ire of something most fearsome. Many super creatures and spirits had been killed, leaving them damaged and vulnerable. Who did that? This sounds great. Han Sen heard this and beamed a smile. He was planning on taking down Outer Sky once he got strong enough. Anyway, no one knows where the creature came from, as no one has seen her before. She was a creature that wielded a bow. She wore black armor and had black wings. She looked as if she had come from Sacred, but she hadn't. She was as powerful as Sacred's leader, though. Even the Outer Sky leader was incapable of fighting her off. Lady Chef detailed the events that had occurred. Han Sen was shocked. He thought the creature she mentioned might have been the woman from the Sacred Egg, but the woman didn't seem that strong when he saw her. Destroyer Wolf had sucked her blood dry. How could she emerge so quickly, appearing healthy and stronger than ever? Han Sen quickly asked, "The creature you mentioned, was she around 1.8 m tall? Were the black wings like the wings of a raven? Did her armor look like this?" Han Sen drew her armor as best as he could from memory. Lady Chef saw it and was surprised. She said, "You saw her." Han Sen's head was in a right mess now, and he thought to himself, undoubtedly, she is the woman from the Sacred Egg. But what happened to save her life and make her strong? Han Sen didn't realize that a part of his strength was included. The creature is that strong? Gu Qingqing came in, asking. She had heard the conversation. Yes, she is that strong. If the spirits were unable to revive in Outer Sky, the shelter should be empty right now. Her mode of operation is 1 arrow, 1 kill. Super creatures and king spirits are both killed in a single strike. Only Outer Sky's leader and a few of their elites were able to survive an arrow. I am sure the fourth god's sanctuary is all in shock over this. No one even knows her name. Everyone just calls her Reaper or Death Goddess. If she gets angry, she will kill everyone she wants to without speaking a single word. Lady Chef sounded jealous. She wanted to be able to do the same thing, too. If she could, obtaining ingredients would be much easier. Leveling up was hard, and thus far, she had only reached gemstone class. Death Goddess. Han Sen's expression was reserved. He repeatedly tapped his head in thought. Han Sen was sure it was the woman from the sacred egg, but the woman did not go to Sacred or Destroyer Empress. She had been searching for something, but what that was, Han Sen did not know. Han Sen was standing in front of the headquarters of the company Impression Culture when the security guard saw him. He was wearing big sunglasses and a hat, with Little Flower in his arms and Bauer perched upon his shoulder. We have a meeting with your chief editor. Here is the appointment slip. Han Sen handed the slip over to the security guard. The security guard scanned the slip and then gave Han Sen a look of admiration. He handed the slip back with both hands and said, "You are Xie King, the author of Overbearing President Love Luov. I really love your comic. Can I have your signature? I apologize, but I am merely his manager. Xie King is busy, so he is unable to attend," Han Sen said. Xie King became a demigod a few years back, but there was no news about what became of him. Han Sen did not know if he was still alive or where he had gone, following his ascension. Still, Han Sen continued to handle the matters surrounding his comics. Although there hadn't been any new material published in the past few years, Overbearing President Love Luov was still popular. They were actually printed in physical, comic format, and a filming-producing company had contacted Impression Culture with the desire to produce an anime and live-action adaptation of the work. Han Sen had come to talk about copyright matters. "Brother Ching, I am so good to you. Even if you have died, your work has been immortalized. Your life and legacy will go on, even if you aren't present," Han Sen thought to himself. Han Sen wasn't interested in these sorts of matters, but it was a personal matter regarding Xie King. It might have been the last thing he left behind in this world, and Han Sen didn't want to see it mishandled. The security guard looked disappointed, but he still said, "Please enter. The chief editor is waiting for you in the boardroom. An AI will show you the rest of the way there." Han Sen followed an AI to the discussion room. He made Little Flower happy as he went. Ji and Ran had been busy lately, so since Han Sen had some free time, he thought it would be good to bring Little Flower along with him. They were worried Little Flower might have been affected by the time spent in the crystallizer's main control room, but nothing had seemed to go awry. Little Flower had grown up like a normal child, and at the tender age of being 1 year old, he could walk and talk. But even so, Little Flower was a very quiet boy. Unless someone spent time with him, he'd sit silently all day long. In the boardroom, Zualan frowned while looking at the screen. Before Han Sen reached the Impression building, she had already been watching him. She was disappointed it wasn't Xie King himself who had shown up, and when she saw Han Sen had brought 2 kids with him to a discussion about copyrights, she frowned even harder. Zualan was not afraid of meeting with famous authors and superstars, but she was afraid of consulting with agents and managers. She was especially afraid of this one, as he didn't look professional. He had brought 2 kids with him, after all. She didn't think the discussion would go smoothly. But Overbearing President Love Luov was too popular, and after all those years, it was still in the top 5. That alone could tell you how popular it was. Most comics that were still updating and ongoing were not as popular as it, and there were many investors interested in Overbearing President Love Luov. Due to its staying power, they wanted to make an anime and live-action adaptation of it. Chief Editors why has Xie King not come? The middle-aged man next to her frowned as he watched Han Sen. Although Xie King is an author for Impression Culture, he is freelance. He has his own way of doing things. If he allowed his manager to come here, that means he is the one who now has total control, Zualan said carefully. Until now, no one knew who Xie King actually was. Zualan herself was quite curious, too. Zualan really loved Overbearing President Love Luov as well. Her mind was like that of a normal young lady. She'd love nothing more than to be loved by a man like that. She was also a little different from most young ladies. and she knew men such as that didn't exist in the real world. She was smart. Did you tell him it was Dong Tae Film that wanted to discuss copyright issues? Our president is here, so isn't he being a little rude? A secretary-looking woman said, standing behind the middle-aged man. Maybe he is busy, and as a result, he couldn't make it here, Swalan said. What could be more important than this? Dong Tae Film has a lot of investment capital. The woman looked displeased. Swalan smiled but did not say anything. She did not like how arrogant they were, but business was business. The copyright fee was rather high, and if the deal was a success, Impression Culture could receive 20% of it. That was a big number. So, even if Swalan hated the woman's attitude, she had to endure it. I didn't even say anything, and you're just a secretary talking crap? You're obviously just a B*TC who sold her body to achieve a modicum of fame. Swalan looked at her with disdain. As they were talking, Han Sen reached the meeting room. Swalan turned the monitor off and let Han Sen and the baby inside. She was thinking, this is bad. Such an unprofessional manager and a slutty B*TCH all in one room. These matters of business will be difficult to discuss. You are Zhua, the chief editor? I am Xie King's manager. Call me Sanmu. Han Sen reached his hand out to Swalan. Swalan saw that he was holding a kid and wearing a hat and glasses, and she knew he had no manners. She still shook his hand, though, and she said, Hello, I am indeed Swalan. Allow me to introduce you to Dong Tae Film's president Yu Ha-tien. He would like to purchase the rights to overbearing President Love Luov. Hello, President Yu. I am Sanmu. Han Sen reached out his hand to Yu Ha-tien. Yu Ha-tien was on a chair, unwilling to stand up. He dropped some cigarette ash and said, Why is Xie King not here? Are you sure you can handle such big business matters? Han Sen was not angry. He just smiled and said, Xie King is in the sanctuary, and he hasn't come back yet. And I have total control over overbearing President Love Luov. I can represent Xie King fully in these matters. You do not have to worry. When Swalan heard what Han Sen said, she wasn't sure if what he was telling the truth, but she understood. The secretary could only roll her eyes and say, This is a big business matter, and he goes to the sanctuary? And what is this attitude of yours? And what is with these children? Are you a manager or a babysitter? Yu Ha-tien looked displeased. He didn't like Han Sen at all. Han Sen, seeing them, had to resist the urge to laugh. He wouldn't let Xie King's work end up in the hands of such people, and he thought it'd be wasted on them. Even though Han Sen did not know much about art, he knew Yu Ha-tien did not know much about art either. Han Sen wanted to do something good for Xie King, but he wasn't willing to give the rights of the book to such people. What are you smiling for? Yu Ha-tien asked, sensing Han Sen's desire to laugh. Han Sen laughed. You might think this is a big business matter, but I'm telling you now that it is small. I decided that I could spare the time to come to this meeting, but if you don't like the way I have presented myself, then let's just shelve the discussion. After that, Han Sen turned around and headed toward the door. Overbearing President Love Luov needed to be published, but he had to ensure those handling it were excellent. Even if Han Sen did not earn much money, that did not matter very much as long as the adaptation was done exceptionally. Swalan and Yu Ha-tien were in shock. They hadn't expected Han Sen to say what he did. Normal managers wanted to earn money, but he was leaving as if he didn't care at all. Small business? Do you have any idea how much we are willing to invest? Do you know how much you will earn once the deal is done? You'll never earn this much money any other way. The secretary looked annoyed. Swalan stepped forward and said, We are here for business. We can all sit down and talk. Han Sen looked at Swalan and said, There is no need for talk. Chief Editor Zhua, please find some decent people next time. I will only sell the copyright to people who can really make good films. If you only have people like this lined up, don't bother contacting me. Swalan knew things were about to get much worse. Yu Ha-tien really hated it when people talked as if he didn't know anything. The truth was, though, he didn't. Dong Tae Film was rich, but that did not mean they could craft exceptional films. They weren't even all that popular in the alliance. Yu Ha-tien was one of the shareholders of Starry Group, too. Dong Tae Film was initially constructed for fun, as something to support actresses. Wei Minjin, the secretary, was one of Yu Ha-tien's mistresses. She was his favorite. The reason he wanted to film this movie was because of her. She wanted to be the main character and earn fame. Although Yu Hatian was just playing, he hated it when people suggested he didn't know anything. Young man, don't be so reckless. If you continue like this, you'll cluelessly walk by opportunities that are right in front of you. Yu Hatian stumped out his cigarette in the ashtray. He spoke to Han Sen coldly. Chief editor, if there is nothing else to discuss, I'm leaving. Han Sen attended the meeting to talk about copyright, yes, but it was also just a way for him to take Little Flower for a walk. Han Sen's mood was ruined by the way things had turned out, and he had no intention of talking with them. Zualan wished to say something, but before she could, Yu Hatian said coldly, young man, do you think that if you leave now, overbearing President Love Luov will never be sold? When Han Sen heard the man say that, he turned around. He looked at him and said, Yu Hatian, right? You talk big, but I've never even heard your name before. You've never heard the names of the shareholders of Starry Group? How can you consider yourself a manager? Wei Mingjin coldly laughed. I know a few people from Starry Group, but not Yu Hatian, Han Sen said and turned to leave. Not even the other shareholders of Starry Group or the controllers of Starry Group, the Ning family, would treat him this way. Hearing Han Sen say this, Zualan felt dizzy. Things were turning sour real quick. Yu Hatian was enraged. He slammed the table, wanting to say something, but just as he was about to, his phone rang. Yu Hatian was so angry that he almost destroyed it. He looked at the screen and picked it up. Mr. Yu, why are you contacting me? I can do anything. I won't disappoint you. Yu Hatian forced a smile to the video stream of the on-screen call. The image showed Ningyu, dressed in white clothing. Ningyu was still as elegant as ever, even after all the time that had passed. Yu Hatian immediately became nervous, seeing Ningyu. Even though it was just a video call, the respect he showed was nothing that could be faked. Ningyu ignored him, though. Ningyu saw Han Sen leaving through the video and said, Han Sen, why are you here? Ningyu remembered Han Senator. He recognized him, even though he could just see his back and he was wearing a disguise. Ningyu, long time no see. Han Sen, hearing Ningyu, turned around to say hello. There was still tension between the two, so it was difficult to discern if they were friends or foes. I was going to drop by your house, but since you're here, there is no need for me to go. My second uncle wishes to buy you dinner. Do you have the time?
Ningyu esai.
After Ningyu said this, Yu Hatian's legs felt soft. Rivers of cold sweat began to cascade down his back. When Ningyu spoke to Han Sen, Yu Hatian couldn't muster a reaction. But when Ningyu mentioned his second uncle, Yu Hatian's heart almost exploded. People knew the Ning family had an old man. He was a demigod, but few people knew that bit. They also had a second uncle. He was the genuinely cruel one. He dictated the lives of those in Starry Group. Ning family had become this famous, not because of the old man, but because of the second uncle. The second uncle in the Ning family would only eat dinner with the president if he felt like it. He had never bought food for anyone else either. This was a request no other demigod had received before. Now that second uncle wished to buy the young man dinner, Yu Hatian's body began to shake. He felt as if he was going to pee himself, as a cold chill struck him. Zualan did not know who second uncle was, but she heard Han Sen and Ningyu. And with Yu Hatian's facial expression being what it was, some things finally clicked into place.
Han Sen.
No, wait. The first super aristocrat of the alliance? Is he Xie Qingqing? Zualan looked at Han Sen with a confused expression, her mind now a mess of different thoughts. Zualan thought if he actually was Han Sen, with his identity being what it was, he wouldn't be the sort to allow someone else to be the manager of his work. Overbearing President Love Luov had to be his creation. He didn't want others to know that, and that is why he must have donned the guise of a manager. Realizing that Xie Qingqing might have been Han Sen, Zualan felt as if her heart was going to blow up inside her chest. For such a powerful person to have such unbridled creativity was an incredible thing. If Han Sen knew what she was thinking at that moment, he'd be having a cold sweat. That was because he had no artistic talent, and he wasn't even all that interested in Xie Qingqing's comics either. Second uncle? Who is second uncle?
Han Senes hot jumped.
He could guess who he might have been referring to, but he couldn't quite believe it. Second brother Ning. Second uncle told me to say this name and you'll know, Ningyu calmly said. Yu Hetian heard second brother Ning and felt his heart begin to cramp. His face was turning black with cold sweat. The last person who mentioned that name in front of Han Sen was a demigod. He then became a fertilizer in the garden. When Han Sen wanted to confirm that the second uncle in the Ning family was like Gu Qingqing and hadn't made a wish before the elusive god. Han Sen did not know why the man wished to meet with him, but Han Sen himself had many questions he wanted to ask. So, he decided to take the man up on his offer. If you have the time, I will allow Director Yu to bring you here, Ningyu said. Okay.
Han Sen nodded.
Director Yu. Director Yu. Ningyu had to call him a few times before he snapped back to reality. Yes, yes? Is there something you require? Yu Hetian quickly asked. Take our guest to meet with the second uncle. I do not want him to be made upset again, Ningyu said coldly. Yes. Do not worry. I will deliver our guest safely to meet with the second uncle. I'll make sure he is satisfied. While Yu Hetian spoke, a pained look appeared on his face.
Han Sen. No. Det är mig god Han.
This is my fault. Please, let me live. Although Yu Hetian did not want to apologize, he did. The thought of being wedged between two individuals like Han Sen and second uncle made all his anger disappear and replaced it with fear. Seeing Yu Hetian talking like this, Wei Mingjin was taken aback. What are you looking at?
Apologise to det är mig god Han.
Seeing Wei Mingjin's face made him angry again. If it wasn't for her desire to create the adaptation, none of this would have happened in the first place. He slapped her in the face. Zualan felt immense joy watching that. She'd had enough of these people, and she had only slogged through it for the benefit of impression culture. It is no wonder he is a super aristocrat. Even the Ning family of Starry Group treats him with such respect. And the fact that he can also draw such amazing comics makes him the most perfect man. It is a shame he is married. Why are all the good men already taken? Zualan was thinking. Han Sen didn't do anything to Yu Hetian. After all, Yu Hetian was one of the Ning family's people. Han Sen would let them deal with him however they saw fit. After all, he still didn't know if the Ning family were friends or enemies. He didn't want to cross any unspoken lines. Yu Hetian then took Han Sen to the planet where second uncle lived. He didn't even land his ship. He told Han Sen that second uncle wasn't fond of visitors, so he just left as soon as he dropped off the guest he was tasked to deliver. Ningyu was waiting for Han Sen at the spaceport. He used an older ship to take Han Sen across the planet. The planet looked very primal. It was like a prehistoric forest. There were many creatures there, and the place hadn't seen any development. When the ship came to a stop, Ningyu walked ahead to lead Han Senator. It was just one big forest, and there were no paths. Second uncle is not fond of technology. He doesn't want such things anywhere near him. He doesn't really care about the family business either. He has remained hidden for decades. I am surprised he wanted to meet with you. Specifically, Ningyu said to Han Sen, as if he was talking to an old friend. You could not tell that Han Sen had once hurt him, and he had to be alone for years. Maybe it is because of the old man's business?
Han Sen really admired Ning Yue.
Even though he was an enemy, it didn't hinder Han Sen's admiration of him. Han Sen thought if he was in Ning Yu's shoes, he couldn't have done the same. Ning Yu now looked very tame. He was a hard man to decipher, and not even Han Sen would underestimate him. On the way, Ningyu begged something of Han Senator. He told Han Sen that the Ning family had two people he could not offend. One was second uncle, and the other was Ningyu himself. The grumpy one, the son of God, was not mentioned. There wouldn't be a problem there. Grass was everywhere, and so were flowers. Han Sen saw a slope with a few wooden houses perched upon it. The walls of the constructs were built from branches. They all appeared to be handmade, and while it was not entirely pretty, it gave Han Sen a feeling of rustic comfort. Second uncle, Han Sen is here, Ningyu said from outside one of the houses. The wooden door was open, and a middle-aged man came walking through the doorframe. He looked similar to Ningyu. He looked like a gentle person, but when he rolled up his sleeves, you could see that he was holding a hoe. He was also wearing flip-flops. It was a strange combination.
Come in.
No one else is here, so make yourself at home. Second uncle was very polite to Han Sen. but it made Han Sen feel as if he had encountered a fake second uncle. From the way Yu Hatian reacted, you'd assume second uncle was a devil that loved to murder people. Why did you ask me to come here? Han Sen asked with a bow. Second uncle was from the same time period as Han Jinji. If they were friends, Han Sen would not be against calling him second uncle. Second uncle looked at Han Sen and said, "You've never seen Han Jinji?" They were just words, but they made Han Sen's heart jump. They made his face change. Is he still alive? Han Sen asked, while looking at second uncle.